history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
I used to trust the media to tell me the truth. That was the truth. But now I've seen the chaos everywhere I look. Who do you trust when everyone's a crook? Revolution coming, revolution coming, yeah.
Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period. I repeat, normal broadcasting will be discontinued for an indefinite period.
Today, the Federal Communications Commission empowers America's new media elite with unacceptable levels of influence over the ideas and information upon which our society and our democracy depend.
Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period. I repeat, normal broadcasting will be discontinued for an indefinite period.
What does the future hold in store for us? To get a glimpse of that future, Army-Navy Screen Magazine presents a new department. Tomorrow, previewing our post-war world.
Let's take a look at what is actually happening now. 9 experimental telecasting studios are already operating, with pre-war equipment and skeleton staffs. While the electronic industry is busy finishing its war job, a handful of people, girls, ex-vets, older men, are keeping the television field alive, experimenting, ironing out kinks, but proving that television will definitely be part of American life when the go-ahead comes. Sight teamed up with sound to bring the world to your easy chair. Telecasting studios will be a combination of Broadway and Hollywood, and you'll get the best of both for the price of your television set and a few cents worth of electricity.
As a public service, TV Free Baltimore provides a digital soapbox for those the mainstream media ignores. The opinions expressed in this live stream are not necessarily those of the owners, management, or underwriters of TV Free Baltimore. Furthermore, TV Free Baltimore streams hyper-local content focusing on politics and entertainment in the Baltimore viewing area.
Streaming live from the Paul and Catherine Ranke Memorial Studio, this is TV Free Baltimore. Support for TV Free Baltimore comes from viewers like you. Become a TV Free Baltimore member by visiting patreon.com/TVFreeBaltimore.
Let me show you something. After each TV Free live stream, I'll boost the stream on Facebook for a week. After the stream of May the 19th, 2018 completed its week-long boost, it suddenly became not approved for any additional boosting. When you view the details, it states, not authorized for ads with political content. Here's what to do. Complete the authorization process. Facebook states, we're forcing people who want to run ads containing political content in the United States to confirm their identity. You need to provide your address, a photo ID, and the last 4 digits of your Social Security number to confirm your identity. In my opinion, this is completely anti-American, anti-free speech, and a form of intimidation. The First Amendment to our Constitution states, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Some are trying to sell us on this idea of private corporations like Facebook and Google are somehow not governed by the First Amendment since they are privately owned businesses. I'll argue otherwise. We have the written law, but there's also the spirit of the law and the political culture born of this idea of freedom, particularly freedom of speech. Now, our founding fathers made it clear political speech is the gold standard of free speech and should be protected at all cost. However, it's become obvious that Facebook and Google are trying to take our culture off this long-established gold standard, arguing that as private corporations, they and they alone get to decide who can post political speech and what political speech can be posted. And in Facebook's case, you must now identify yourself with your address, a picture ID, and the last 4 digits of your Social Security number if you want to become authorized for ads with political content, whatever that means. Now, Facebook and Google were one of 1,000 social media sites which provided platforms for political speech. This would be no big deal. However, it needs to be recognized Facebook and Google share a near monopoly of the digital platform where political speech is most exercised in our modern society. Therefore, these two private corporations should be looked upon somewhat as public utilities and held to be not above the law, particularly the very First Amendment of our Constitution. Furthermore, no one should believe that somehow Facebook and Google can simply disregard our long-established culture, which recognizes every individual's right to step onto a soapbox and freely speak about politics, whether the soapbox be a physical soapbox or a digital soapbox.
Hi, hi, I'm Dawn Wells, and guess what? You are watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hey there, folks. This is Lenny Rudo from Fish Talk Magazine, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, this is Mary from TV Free Baltimore. I'm here at Turkey Point Marina, and I'm here with Lenny Rudo. He has started a wonderful new magazine called Fish Talk. Would you like to tell some of the passion about why you have started this?
Sure. Well, you know, we anglers in the Mid-Atlantic region, and particularly in the Chesapeake, we care an awful lot about what's going on out there, and unfortunately we've had no publication for years and years, really ever since the recession hit and several went out of business. We've had no publication covering fishing in this area, either in print or on the web. So we started Fish Talk, which is both in print and on the web. We started up in April of last year, so we're now publishing the 15th edition. This is last month. This is our newest right here with that big beautiful black drum on the cover. Boy, I wish I caught him.
What areas are you mainly covering?
So we actually cover from Delaware clear down into Virginia. The Chesapeake Bay is where our heart is. It's where we're based at. But we also do cover the coastal fishing, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. And we also cover freshwater in all 3 of those states, as well as D.C. and a little bit in Pennsylvania. It's really all the areas that any anglers living around here might want to go fish.
You keep us updated on the conditions and the amount of fish and other aspects of what's going on with the marina life and everything.
Absolutely. As far as the how-to, where-to information goes, we put it all right here in the magazine. This is your how-to, where-to. Now, of course, there's a time lag between when you prepare a magazine and when you actually print it, and that was always the weakness with fishing reports that appeared in any kind of print publication. So what we do is every week by noon on Friday, we update fishing reports that cover all the different areas that we just talked about. We have different reports for the Middle Chesapeake, for the Lower Chesapeake, for the Tangier Sound. All these areas, we call a bunch of folks in each different area. We talk to different charter boat captains, we talk to different tackle shops, and we get reports for all these different areas. Every Friday by noon, they're updated.
What is your mission?
You know what? It all boils down to helping you catch more, bigger fish. That's what it all comes down to. We have a ton of how-to, we have a ton of where-to. If you fish in this area, you're going to find the tactics, you're going to find the techniques that you need to know to catch drum like that and speckled trout like that.
What's your contact information?
Well, you can always go to fishtalkmag.com, spelled just like it sounds. Fishtalkmag, M-A-G, tv3baldtimore.com, and that'll take you right to the magazine online. From there you can find email. You can email me if you'd like. I'm always happy to get emails from readers. Send us reports, send us your fish pictures. We have an entire section in the magazine of reader photos where readers have sent in different fish pictures of the fish that they've caught. And people love being in print, so it's fun.
Where can you get the print?
Well, the print version is available in over 700 locations up and down the Mid-Atlantic region. Pretty much all the tackle shops have it. Lots of marinas have it. It's right here at Turkey Point. They've got it inside at the office. A lot of convenience stores have it. And of course, since we're, talking to fishermen, the liquor stores all have it too.
Oh, that's great. And the bait stores, right?
Absolutely.
And it's free?
It's completely free, yes. Please.
That's great.
Find a print version, take one home with you.
Okay, everybody out there, go out and look for Fish Talk, and you'll become a great fisherman. It's Mary from TV Free Baltimore. Thank you so much.
We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
4 years ago, people were fleeing Maryland. 43 tax hikes, even taxing the rain. 100,000 jobs lost. So we elected Larry Hogan. $1.2 billion in tax, toll, and fee relief. Highest ever funding for schools. Healthiest bay in a generation. Maryland's back. When we needed a leader, Hogan was there. And when he needed us, we returned the favor. Larry Hogan, changing Maryland.
My name's Tony Campbell, and I approve this message. If you want the end of Common Core, if you want to protect our children, if you want a balanced budget in Washington, D.C., if you want to protect our veterans and make sure they get the care that they need, if you also want to end chain migration and a diversity lottery, then I'm your candidate for United States Senate. My name's Tony Campbell. I'm a Republican for United States Senate, paid for by Campbell for Maryland.
If you want change, if you want these streets cleaned up, if you want this heroin really attacked and taken care of, if you want this Section 8 housing abolished or reduced, if you want jobs coming to this county, if you want to see a better education system that's accountable to students and to the parents, if you want to see real change, and if you want to see this county to become the best county in the United States of America, then I'm your guy.
In all of freedom's history, there has never been an organization quite like the National Rifle Association of America. No other people are so alert, so vigilant, so unafraid to take a stand and go out and fight for what's good and right. We, the people of the National Rifle Association, represent the very best of America's strength and of America's character.
Baltimore Unbound is the manifesto used by the NAACP, ACLU, and the ABLE Foundation in their attempt to transform Baltimore County into the new Baltimore City. This book is racist, authoritarian, and will not fix the problems in Baltimore City, but will create new problems in Baltimore County. The author, David Rusk, argues all of Baltimore City's problems, real and imagined, are caused by a hyper-concentration of black poverty within the political boundaries of Baltimore City. His solution to the city's problem is to move poor blacks from the worst neighborhoods in the city to the best neighborhoods in the surrounding counties. If you are poor and white, or any other skin color for that matter, you need not apply for this program, which is blatantly racist. The first page of the book remarks legal action may be necessary to bring this program into reality. In other words, the courts would force this program onto those that don't want it and force county residents to pay for the program through higher property taxes, which is blatantly authoritarian. The blatant racism and authoritarianism should not come as a surprise after looking at the author's background. He's another Democrat calling for the redistribution of wealth via higher taxes and the equality of outcome via greater government intervention into our lives.
In March 2016, our county executive, Kevin Kamenetz, announced a settlement of litigation. Baltimore County residents apparently stood accused of serious human rights violations. So serious that Kamenetz committed us to spend $30 million to subsidize developers of affordable housing, and committed us to relocate over 2,000 dependent households to nice suburban neighborhoods with high-performing schools, regardless of the costs. And so, with the stroke of his pen, Towson became the epicenter of the largest public housing relocation experiment in the United States, without so much as a vote by County Council on this deal. And if you even just asked what Baltimore County did wrong, what we were accused of, you would find no answer. No record of the original complaint, no press release from the group suing us, no public record of 4 years of litigation. Over 10,000 pages of case details exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. This was done in secret for a reason, because it was intended to subvert democracy in Baltimore County, to bypass county council, and to impose a far-reaching agenda without any public input. And because the arguments against us would not have withstood public scrutiny, at least not outside of the secret proceedings of this biased HUD court. And because this plan is engineered to ignore the concerns of the communities it targets, regardless of any harm it may cause them. But really at its core, because the more information is made public, the dirtier this deal looks. County residents had no notice, no right to confront our accusers, no say in the settlement terms imposed on us, which now by design can never be modified by our elected representatives, even though most of this deal's costs are scheduled for after Kamenetz leaves office. Let's call this what it was, a betrayal of Baltimore County residents. But Kamenetz was not alone in that betrayal. While these special interests were suing Baltimore County taxpayers, Towson's representative, Delegate Steve Lafferty, was actually on the side of the people suing his constituents. Lafferty is the author and lead sponsor of their top legislative priority, giving them unchecked quasi-governmental power to move thousands of people around Baltimore County like dots on a map. Lafferty's bill would change state law to make this sort of abusive litigation even easier in the future. Not even Kamenetz would go that far, handing unaccountable power to a group of hostile special interests who answer to no elected officials. Maybe this is why, when the settlement was announced, these activists confidently stated that 2,000 households and $30 million was merely a first step. We know their agenda includes forcing Towson to build public housing projects, so we'd be wise to take that statement seriously. Defending democracy against a cabal of special interests, seeking unaccountable power over local communities, should not be controversial. It should not be partisan. And at a local level, it wasn't. By a 6-1 bipartisan vote, Baltimore County Council resoundingly rejected Lafferty's plan. So Lafferty responded by partnering with D.C. area Democrats in the state legislature to override the will of his county's locally elected representatives. Towson residents had no say in Kamenetz's dirty deal, but we will have a choice in 2018. Hi, I'm Steve McIntyre, and I'm running for the House of Delegates, because Towson deserves a representative who actually represents the people who call its communities home, not some partisan agenda or some extreme ideology, and absolutely not some band of special interests who seek to impose their plans on our communities. What happened here is wrong. It really should be a national scandal. But there's a lot more of the story yet to come. This is the first episode in a series. And if you go to my website, stevemcintyre.org, sign up, I'll keep you updated on the latest. And of course, please share this with your friends and neighbors. This is important information. I don't make these statements lightly, but people of Baltimore County deserve to know the truth. Anyway, thanks a lot for paying attention and, considering the facts with an open mind. And I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.
See this cute little vial here? It's crack, rock cocaine, the most addictive form. You think it's the glamour drug of the 80s? Well, that's the point of this friendly little reminder. It can kill you. And if you've got to die for something, this sure as hell ain't it.
You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
My name is Bob Cockey, and I need your help. I'm running for the state delegate seat in the Maryland 12th Legislative District. I'm not a politician, and I'm not a lawyer. Annapolis has enough of those. It's time that we separate and put party politics aside and work as one big team. We've got some serious problems facing us. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm against crime, I'm against high taxes, I'm against the opioid problem. Of course I am, but they're just catchphrases for other politicians. What I want to tell you is that on February the 9th, I got up, I grabbed a tie and a jacket, and I put it on. My wife said, "Where are you going, Bob?" I said, "I'm going to go apply for a job." She said, "What?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Where?" I said, "Annapolis." This is a true story, by the way. I'm not making this up. She said, what job are you going to apply for? I said, "I'm going to apply for the House of Delegates." I said, "Enough is enough. I'm tired of sitting back watching. I'm going to take part in this." She says, "You don't have a chance, Bob." I said, "Well, we'll see. We'll see." What I want to tell you is we have to run our government like you run your household. We have a budget. We have to stick to it. We just can't keep raising taxes. I know what it's like as a small businessman where you have a flat tire the same day your gas and electric bill comes in. When the governor says we need an inspector general to see where the money's going into Baltimore City, he's 100% right. By being smart stewards of the money that we have, we can all have new schools. We can have programs to help children and adults with special needs. I guess I might want to say that I'm on a platform of a level playing field. And I don't just mean race. I don't just mean religious backgrounds. I'm talking about a level playing field in every section. What's good for Glenelg and Howard County is good for Elk Ridge. What's good in Towson is also good for Lansdowne. We all pay the same taxes. We should all reap the same benefits. 20 to 30% cost overruns in government contracts, whether it's in a school system, whether it's in building a road, has become a common everyday practice. Another thing we have to watch out for is, I spent all day in Annapolis a couple weeks ago. They were trying to get a bill through called the SAFE Act, and that was just a disguise to make Maryland a sanctuary state. Listen, I'm not against immigrants. This country was built on immigrants. But what I am in favor of is legal immigrants, and it's not fair to the immigrants that came here through the legal process. Our immigrants built this country, and they're still a big part of what goes on in this country. America is a great country, and that's why everybody wants to come here. But we have to pay attention to what's going on. We need to decide who our real heroes are, and by smart financial responsibility, we can pay our teachers, our firefighters, and our policemen what they deserve. They're our real heroes, not somebody that catches the ball. Let's get real with this, okay? I'm not just new to this area. The Cockey family came to Maryland in 1676. I've lived in the 12th district for over 32 years. I've umpired Little League games. My wife retired from the system in education after 30 years. My son is a volunteer firefighter at the Elk Ridge Fire Department. So we're not new to this area. I love the state of Maryland, and that's why I'm getting involved. Whether you vote for me or if you vote for someone else, I need you to vote We need to wake up and get involved and see what's going on in our state. Thank you. My name is Bob Cockey. Visit me on my website, Elect Bob Cockey, or visit my personal Facebook page. It's not a political Facebook page. You can see what I've been doing and talking about for the last several years on my personal Facebook page. On the election ballot, my personal phone number is on there, my cell phone. You don't have to go through any voicemails. You'll call me directly. Thanks for listening to my message.
It's easy hiding my heroin habit from my parents. If I'm tired or don't eat, I'm just acting like a typical kid. I hide my stash in my room because I know my parents would never snoop. They don't notice the missing painkillers either, or the money I take from their wallets, but I think they're going to notice this.
Assistant Chapter Commander for the Baltimore Guardian Angels. The Baltimore Guardian Angels are currently recruiting men and women of good character who are dedicated to making a positive change in their communities.
Guardian Angels, integrity,
dedication,
commitment.
Men and women of good character who want to make a difference.
Guardian Angels, join us.
Join us. Join us.
The Guardian Angels, join us.
It's time to angel up.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Maryland Politics here at TV Free Baltimore Studios here in Lansdowne. And I'm with David Griggs, Libertarian running for United States Congress in District 7. Welcome to the studio, David.
Thank you, Derek. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me start by just getting more familiar with you.
Sure.
You know, can you tell our audience a little bit more about who you are, you know, your background, you know, just a little bit of representation about yourself, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I'm David Griggs. I was born in Florida, went to school in Florida. I have 2 degrees from the University of Florida, both in physics. I have a doctorate in physics, and I worked for about 35 years for various government contractors, mainly with the Department of Defense, and for a while for NASA. So I have a strong background in understanding the Defense Department and their activities. I was in acquisition for the Defense Department, supporting acquisitions for the Department of Defense, and I've been a Libertarian since the 1970s. The first campaign I ever worked on was about 1972, so it was not long after the Libertarian Party was founded.
Wow.
And I've been a Libertarian ever since. Sometimes I could vote Libertarian because they appeared on the ballots, and sometimes I couldn't because it's only been recently that there were a lot of Libertarian candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to take the opportunity to run for the 7th Congressional District for the House of Representatives because I thought it would be a good chance to present libertarian ideas and principles to that constituency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's time for the 7th District to have a new representative. And I think a Libertarian would be a perfect representative for that district.
Sure. Well, in this District 7, or 7th District,
right,
what's going on? I mean, what are the issues? And I'm sure there's some kind of issues, and I'm sure there's some plus sides. So feel free to share both the, you know, the pros and cons, or the good and the bad, so to speak, of what's going on in District 7.
Well, District 7 is a district that's very complicated in shape and population. It's a, by a large margin, a heavily Democratic district. They voted Democratic for the last multiple years. in all elections, and it's the only Maryland district that has a majority minority population. Okay. So it was the goal of when redistricting occurred in 2011 to create a district like that and make 7 of the 8 districts in Maryland be majority Democratic voters.
So it was by design, is what
it was
you're
designed,
saying. Okay.
and they voted Democratic for the Democratic candidate since then, and even before. It's a district that's basically consists of 2 distinct parts. It's the eastern area of Baltimore City, a large fraction of Baltimore County, and a large fraction of Howard County. So Baltimore County and Howard counties have different populations.
So it consists of city limit area and
Baltimore,
county area
and
as
county
well?
area, right?
Wow, I never knew that. I always thought a district, you know, would have to be either in the county or the city.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean that.
I
think a lot of people.
The Maryland legislature, in their wisdom, you probably are aware that Maryland was one of the states that was the redistricting plan was reviewed recently by the Supreme Court. A decision hasn't been made, as far as I know, because they have a couple of districts in Maryland that are very, very complex and are conspicuously, what the phrase is, gerrymandered. And so the Supreme is going to rule on whether it's actually a legal redistricting.
Wow.
So we'll see how that turns out. It wouldn't affect this election, obviously, but may affect elections in the future.
You've seen a lot since the 1970s,
Yes,
okay?
right.
To have been active
Right.
as an active libertarian for
Right.
so long. You know, a lot of these changes, I'm sure you know, have been good, but I'm pretty sure most of it has been things that you've have drawn questions for you.
Sure.
You know, can you kind of point out some things that you'd like to see different, or things that you would do if elected? And currently you would be running against Elijah Cummings, correct?
Yes, Representative Cummings has been there about 25 years. And he's been the representative for that district for that amount of time. And I think that's one of the problems of the district, that they vote Democratic strongly in every election. And I think basically one of my points, one of my jobs, one of my goals is to educate the constituents of that district about why they should seriously think about voting for a libertarian. Because I think libertarians offer a lot of positions on issues that would be attractive to the constituents of the district. Both the northern part of the district, that's kind of they have a different set of issues than the southern part, which is in Howard County. But I think in general, a lot of the issues can be well addressed by a libertarian.
I always ask my libertarian guests,
Uh-huh.
I always ask this question because it's generally a similar answer, but a lot of times there are some differences in the reply that I get.
Right.
But as you know, the libertarian movement, do you feel as though a lot of people just don't know enough about what libertarians stand for? Kind of like, you know, Democrats are, you know,
yes.
It seems like
I think
the way we were taught, more government, you know, less for the people. Even though it wouldn't be admitted, because as the conservative party is, it should be less government,
right.
more for the people.
Right.
So what, you know, I'm trying to educate people on what it is to be a libertarian, so they can maybe identify with whether they are one or not.
Yes. The Libertarian Party, I think, is not that difficult to understand. The basic principle is that you have the right to live the life you want to live as long as you don't infringe on somebody else's right to live their lives. But that's sometimes not obvious how you apply that basic principle to the general populace as a whole. And libertarians see that the best person to make a decision about each individual's life is that individual. And I think we've gotten to the point now that both the major parties, the Democratic and the Republican parties, have differences, but they both think they know best how to run the country. And that includes being involved with your personal dealings. So I think the libertarians consider themselves to be socially liberal and fiscally conservative, which means whatever aspects about your person or your character are completely irrelevant to the rights you have from a libertarian point of view. Everybody, say in the United States, has the same rights. It doesn't matter what color, what gender, what sexual orientation you have exactly the same rights as everybody else. And the government shouldn't be influencing what rights you can express.
So it's classifications. Libertarians believe that both the Democratic and the Republican parties have a way of isolating.
Yes.
Gender, race, color, creed, where libertarians are just, is a full blanket covering everybody basically under one umbrella.
Yes.
And I think we've all gotten used to that way of thinking. We all have. Somehow we all try to put ourselves in some kind of classification.
Right.
Which in some cases, maybe it is warranted, especially when it comes to the wealthy on down to who's less wealthy or more poverty stricken. Because once that happens, you automatically fall within a different class bracket because you're in a different financial bracket.
Sure.
So I think it's very, very difficult to not see who and which party might be more in your favor. Now, I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, that's the way a lot of voters look at their vote. Which party benefits me the most? And I think if you look at libertarians don't argue that you're going to get a specific benefit because you're a member of a group or a class. You're going to get what the benefit you're going to be provided by a libertarian principled government is that you're going to get the choices that you want to make. You get to decide how best to run your life.
The choices. See, and this is what something Charles Wesley has been trying to pound in my head for a while now. Mm-hmm. What else is your concern? What other major things out there do you feel as though the Libertarian Party, not just yourself, because it's a whole movement of getting people on board. What all do we all need to become or join in conjunction with to help improve the quality of life?
Well, something I mentioned previously was that the libertarian position is that you were born with, as the Declaration of Independence says, a set of unalienable rights basically given to you by your Creator. And you get those sort of when you become a human, okay? And that means that whatever kind of human you are, whether you're black or white or Chinese or Filipino or male or female or something in between or gay or homosexual, those are completely immaterial to what your rights are. All your rights are the same as anybody else. As long as you use your rights without infringing on other people's rights. We're fortunate to live in the United States with a very good Constitution. It's only got a small number of amendments to it. And the point of the Constitution is to limit government power. And the fact that we have a Bill of Rights which lists certain rights that we have, that was an attempt by the founders to make sure that future governments knew that these rights were existent, not that they were a list of all the rights that an American citizen had, but these are ones that they thought were the most important to identify at that time.
Right, and that's why they came up with those laws and those rights.
For example, there's a lot of controversy these days about the interpretation of the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. where it says
The right to, what's that, to bear arms?
The own and bear arms. Libertarians are generally or own anything, as long as you don't make it dangerous where it's being dangerous to your neighbors or your friends or to another citizen.
Being reckless.
But owning something is a right. Using it in a dangerous way is not a right.
Not a right. I wish you the best of luck in your efforts in obtaining that major seat in office.
Right.
I'd like for you to just, before we end this particular conversation, just one more time, give your website or any means of accessing you for the public, just so they can reach you and maybe somehow somebody might be able to help funding, or just be there support when it comes time for the voting and all. So yeah, just tell our TV-free audience one more time your website and some other means of accessing you.
Okay, it's for Maryland7th.com. I also have a Twitter account at Griggs for MD7. That's GRIGGS. The number 4, MD, and then 7. You can access my Twitter account from my webpage. And on my webpage, you'll see my positions on several issues, and also a way to communicate with me, and a way to donate to my campaign. If you see that I would make a good candidate, I'd appreciate your contributions, and any comments you make, I'll try to respond to. So, Derek, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I enjoyed having the conversation with you.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
This is Hugh. This is my son. He started on drugs when he was 16. When his life became confused, unreal, filled with horrifying hallucinations, he ended his life. Get between your kids and drugs any way you can if you want to save the kid's life.
Hey guys, Johnny Alonso, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Welcome to TV Free Baltimore's Books and Authors.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and this is another edition of Books and Authors. And today, our guest has written, you could say, a lot of weird books, but also a lot of other things too, which we'll find out about him and about his works as an author. So today we have with us the British man of letters, and I think numbers, mostly zeros and ones. It's Matt Lake. And welcome, Matt.
Hello, Paul. Thank you.
Now, because our show is featured for Maryland people, mostly in the Maryland audiences, I hate to start there, but we're going to start with you working on Weird Maryland.
Don't hate to start there. It was one of the best, most fun projects I had a chance to work on.
Oh, it was?
I got sucked into the whole weird phenomenon through New Jersey.
Yes.
Where I wasn't living either. So I got sucked into that by editing this collection of 10 years worth of articles for the magazine Weird New Jersey. They wanted to make a book out of it. It was 3 times too long, so they said, Matt, we want you to take one word out of every 3 and make a book out of it. And here's the thing, we want you to keep all the stories and maintain the voice. And so I started plowing through these words and throwing away the excess verbiage. And it was one of those things where it was a chore doing that much work on any body of writing, because it was well written and interesting anyway, but there was too much of it. Yeah. And because it was a chore, I was thinking, it's a paycheck, I was thinking. And then when I was editing one of the ghost stories, the phone rang, and I must have leapt out of my clothes and skin, 4 foot in the air. And then I thought, this material's really strong. You know, it's getting under my skin. And I'm looking, it was a job, but it was really getting under my skin. So when that book became successful and they said, we're thinking of doing all the states, you know, tell me the states you've lived in. I was going, well, Pennsylvania, Maryland, California. And said, well, California's too far away, but you know, Pennsylvania and Maryland, get on them. So I did. And in the process, I met a whole bunch of people who were steeped in bizarre Maryland law. And so where I was lacking, clearly I was wandering in there sounding like a slightly refined Ozzy Osbourne. And they were going, you're not from around these parts. And I was going, well, no, I'm from Dundalk, obviously. And that broke the ice, you know. But I wound up working with a number of people who were, you know, magazine people, newspaper people, folklorists, and just, yeah, people who drive cars with hands sticking out of them. You know, just, you know, the good people in Maryland. So I wound up talking to a lot of people, seeing a lot of stuff, picking up some really good stories.
I would imagine, because I didn't know you did the Jersey one. But
I edited the Jersey one.
You edited that.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
absolutely.
did Pennsylvania and then Maryland.
That's right, and then England, and then Weird US Volume 2.
So many books that you did in that series.
Yeah, they all in all, the weird New Jersey company that put them all out did, I think, 28, and I was involved one way or another with about 20 of them. So I was, I contributed stories, edited stories, wrote or edited, you know, quite a number of those books.
Now, were you comfortable with it? Because I think something like that might fall into, they present to you, this is a format. These are the things that you have to write about. Or were you able to pick the weird things that you wrote about or not?
I was. Okay. I had a fairly free rein. There were people who'd written in to Weird New Jersey about stuff in different states, because they would run this thing called The Fringe in their magazine for years. So a lot of people had written stuff in. Yeah, there were originally chapter headings of, you know, you have to have, they called it Cemetery Safari, and I wound up calling it Tombstone Tourism instead, because I like that a little better. But you know, there's got to be some graveyard stories. Well, that's great, because I love graveyards. I mean, they are really, really fascinating to me. And there's always bizarre things by the side of the road, and then there's cryptids. You know, there's the state monster. So we had plenty in Maryland, of course. I mean, there's Chessie the sea creature, and the Snallygaster, who's one of which is halfway a gag and halfway not. And there was a lot in the 70s in particular. There was a lot of there's a lot of Bigfoot interest out there in some of the more remote parts of the state. So there had to be monsters. Of course. Abandoned stuff by the side, abandoned asylums and abandoned buildings. Of course, there are plenty of that. There's some wonderful stories there.
Ghosts?
Ghosts. Oh yeah, I forgot about ghosts. Yeah, ghosts as well, and all the above. So yeah, there was no shortage. No shortage.
Now tell us, if you could, like, what do you think were some of the weirdest things in Weird Maryland?
Well, I was hugely fond of the Black Aggie legend because it had gone on so long, and there was a piece of art around it. So and it turned out to be two pieces of art, and then there was a corrupt Frenchman at the heart of it. Not corrupt exactly, but there was a chancer. There was an opportunistic Frenchman at the heart of it, Felix Agnes, who had come over to the United States as a soldier of fortune and made a fortune. He became a newspaper man, and so he was like this big flamboyant newspaper character who'd been in the wars. So he was kind of like a Colonel Sanders of letters, and he bought himself a grave plot in Druid Ridge and commissioned a statue and had this great statue put there. And not long after, this was while he was still alive.
Yes. Okay.
So a lot of Victorians did that, actually, which I think is great.
They put their monuments up before they died.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So they could really appreciate the money they spent on them.
Of course.
So they go back there, and Agnes was very fond of this until the widow of the very famous sculptor, Augustus St. Gaudens, came up from D.C. and said, that that's an unauthorized copy of one of my husband's statues, and he should be ashamed of himself. And so he had to backpedal very rapidly because, in fact, he had bought an unauthorized copy of a statue that was known as Grief. That was in DC and was a tourist destination in DC. It had been purchased and commissioned for the death of Clover Adams. Henry Adams's wife, who died young and under, if not suspicious circumstances, it was she died young, and she was very mourned because she was a Washington D.C. socialite. She was a party gal, and so everyone really enjoyed her company. She died early, and this statue was commissioned. And then all of a sudden, a not particularly good copy of it appears up in Baltimore by this newspaper guy, and he said, "Well, I'm going to sue the guy that sold it to me because he said it was an original." So he said he didn't take away the statue. He didn't do the decent thing because it was a good statue. So he wound up leaving it there. And over the years, in the 1920s in particular, this is when all the Black Aggie stories started to happen.
Started in the 20s.
And, oh yeah, they were, it was not like, it was only about 10 years after he died. People would be going there and sitting on Aggie's lap, and the eyes would glow. Some stories said they would glow red, some stories said they'd glow green. Sometimes she would hug you and squeeze you to death. Sometimes your heart would just stop. If you were a girl, then you would fall pregnant, or if you were a pregnant girl, you'd have a miscarriage. So all these legends were surrounded this one statue, and as a journalist, of course, my goal is always to try and condense the stories into one narrative, and when the stories are that diverse, there's no one narrative. Right. And so I thought, well, let me see if I can get some definitive stories. So I over-researched this thing like crazy because it's possible to do that with these tales. I went down to College Park, and there's a folklore archive there. And in the 1960s, a freshman English class would do oral histories. And there must have been 20 or 30 different Aggie stories. So I went down there, and there was a crate of one of those boxes, archive boxes, and they pulled this out at the folklore archive down there, and I wasn't allowed to take photographs, but I was allowed to have a laptop, so I was just tap 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 tap. I transcribed probably about 18 of these stories. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to try and condense a single story out of it. And in the end, I thought, there is no single story, and that's not the point. It's not how folklore works. That's how journalistic stories work. And if I try to impose a structure on top of it, it'll lose everything. So I wound up running 2 or 3 of those stories that I got from the archive in College Park and said, okay, there's a lot of contradictory narratives, but it's scary. Oh, and it's disappeared. Because in the 1960s, so many people were going there, causing so much disruption, that the family and the cemetery decided it's got to go. So the next thing the thrill seekers that went there by night found was the plinth there with Agnes written on it, and just a scar where the statue had been. And is that the end of the story? Of course it's not the end of the story, because if you're going down to get scared at night, and you know there's a statue there and the statue's not there, well, it's obviously come to life and it's stalking. And so, once again, I'm not just making that up. This was part of the narrative that was in this oral history. So it's all part of the legend. And sure enough, they were, sort of tales of Aggie stalking.
Oh, wow.
Stalking the cemetery, and that's where she went. There was also talk that didn't quite gel with the statue, because I got very familiar with the statue.
You've never seen it, though.
Well, not strictly true, because it did resurface. I'll circle around to that. I'll circle around to that. Okay. I saw the original down in I think it's Rock Creek Cemetery in D.C. And it's, you know, she's leaning over and she's shrouded and she's got a hand up to her cheek and you can't see her eyes really unless you duck under. Very, you know, sort of mournful, very striking, imposing statue.
That's the original now.
That's the original.
And you saw the original.
I saw the original one that was made by Augustus St. Gordon's
Right.
for Clover Adams, and then I saw the scar in Druid Ridge where the statue had been removed and donated to the Smithsonian, and they said lost because it disappeared for a good 20 or 30 years. No one saw it. So obviously she was stalking. She was stalking the cemetery. Then there were some tales of how Aggie's arm was outstretched, and there was a newspaper article about how the arm had actually been taken off, and somebody was caught putting it in their in the trunk of their car.
Oh, okay.
So they'd hacked off a souvenir, and was arrested. And he was saying, "Well, yeah, she was threatening to kill this woman, so I saved her. I cut the arm off because she'd come to life." I think that was thrown out of court as a defence, and he was charged with vandalising a graveyard. But all the while I'm thinking, well, there's no outstretched arm unless you go like a block and a half down in the cemetery, and there is another statue of a woman with a shroud over, with her arm outstretched. And if you look, it looks like it's been fixed. The vertebrae is a little different part of the way through the arm. So there's one Aggie statue that's not Aggie, but everyone said it was. Okay. And there was where she's picked up a chair and she's gone a couple of blocks down where, I don't know, where the view's better. I don't know. She moved. And if you're not careful, she'll follow you, and then you're doomed. Because when Aggie gets you, there's no going back.
Okay, is that the same as the the Rabbit Man?
Oh, the Bunny Man.
The Bunny Man.
The Bunny Man. Oh, that was another great one. Also down in the Folklore Archive, down in.
Was it? Well,
yeah.
With the Aggie thing, I know I have seen the statue. I don't know if it's the Clover Adams statue or they found the actual other one, because I spent many years living in D.C. and one of the places I would haunt was the National Portrait Gallery, National Gallery of Art.
Right.
And they had the statue there, one of the two. And it's like
really
gray or dark gray granite, and the whole thing, with the shrouded. And for a while, it was like neglected, like it was kept down, like in a stairwell between the buildings.
It was an unauthorized copy, and there were some real issues with it being an unauthorized copy.
The copy, because I guess Clover Adams is still in Congressional Cemetery or wherever it is.
Right. Yeah.
But this one, and I saw it, and I said, wow, and I forget what they did with it. If they ever put it on display or anything. It's in one of those government warehouses somewhere.
it's like the end of that, the movie with...
Raiders of the Lost
Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark, exactly.
Now, do you want to say anything about the Bunny Man?
I will say something about the Bunny Man, but shall I leave people waiting to find out where the Black Aggie really is now, or shall I...
Why don't you tell us?
Okay, right.
Please tell us now.
It's in the courtyard of the Dolly Madison house, so it's right around the corner.
Oh, that must be the one.
Right around the corner from the White House. Yeah, yeah.
They moved it out there. I thought it was.
They did, yeah. I think that it was one of those things they didn't want to put it on display because it was an unauthorized copy.
Oh, did you see
it? But
they
wound up. Oh yeah, I've seen it.
The Octagon House is what that is called.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, because it's.
Is that because of the number of sides, by any chance?
Yes.
Oh, how about that?
It has 8 sides.
Well, there. Yeah,
what do you know?
Yeah, that's right.
And you're the math. You're the IT guy. Come on.
Yeah, I was trying to do my figuring in hexadecimal there. I was going to get around to 8 in the end.
Okay, well, it's a great ending. Anyway, it's in the Dolly Madison house. I've never been to the Octagon house, but I've gone by it.
It's there. There's a people, sort of government workers hang out and have lunch around there, so it's definitely visible.
I may be wrong. Let me back it up. I'm going to play that one back, but we'll keep running. Okay. Is that there is, because I lived in Silver Spring for a long time, that there's Octagon House, which was the little White House after the British burnt the White House in 1812 or whatever, 1814. It's okay.
I'll take responsibility for that. Yeah, those are my people. Yeah.
No, but there's also a house that Dolly Madison lived in when she was a widow. That's on Lafayette Square.
I think
across from the White House.
Yes, it's right in the thick of things.
So is it in Lafayette Square, in maybe in the back or something?
Yeah, there's a little courtyard around there.
Oh, in the courtyard.
And there's I don't know which department it is, but there's a government department.
I'm sure they're all
right there, and they come out there with their little box lunches and
and they just come
and they hang out next to Aggie.
Wow, I used to hang out at the Westminster Churchyard. So.
Well, you clearly had the right idea, because that's a phenomenal place. Love Poe.
I was there before all the renovations, and it looks nice now. It was the rundown old creepy graveyard in the 70s,
Oh, which are the creepy rundown ones are the best.
They are the best.
I would like to think that it was probably late night movies from the Hammer horror canon that really got me interested, and many of them were done in the in a very, very rundown cemetery in North London, Highgate Cemetery.
Actually, really was done there. Okay.
Oh yeah, there was, but it was the most. It was out in the country when they first built it, like a lot of these Victorian garden cemeteries, and it was beautiful. There were huge amounts of money put into these Italianate marble sculptures, and these. A lot of cemeteries really like to have pyramids and Egyptian-style things, partly because the Egyptians revered the dead in a way that the Victorians found romantic, and partly because there's Rosicrucian and a lot of secret societies like the Rosicrucians, certainly the Masons, the Oddfellows. They all really enjoyed. Egyptian symbolism.
It's in their rituals.
Exactly. So they wound up. You see a lot of stuff in graveyards with that kind of symbolism in it. The three linked squares for the Oddfellows. Three linked chain links.
Yes. Now, I was going to ask you, because I know we could do this all night. Is that
there is a danger? You've wound me up, man. You give me a forum. I'm going to keep
all
going.
All right. You got kicked alive there. That no longer zombified. But anyway, did you have the interest in folklore, strange, true historical crime, and urban legends before you worked on this book series?
I did. There was in the 1970s when I was a teenager. There was a great deal of renewed interest in Jack the Ripper, for example.
Oh, of course.
And that was the era when. There was a lot of speculation about aliens. There was a lot of speculation about cryptids. It was all, it was really fermenting in the 70s.
Chariots of the Gods.
Eric von Däniken, the Swiss. I think he was a doorman in a hotel, but somehow he managed to get this international bestseller. And I'm thinking. A lot of these arguments are really tenuous, but he made a fortune at it. Maybe I could do that sometime. Yeah. I've spun out a lot of books. I've not made the money Eric von Däniken made. He made a lot of money out of that.
So we'll get to that too. I mean, you have to just hit some notes tonight, because we can always have you back. Is when did you figure you wanted to be, or you said, I think I can be an author, or what made you want to write or be an author?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, it was part of the immigrant experience. Really? I came to the country, and like a lot of people who move, cherchez la femme. I got married and wanted to settle down and start a family, but I was in a different country. And it's like, well, what can I do? And I'd loved reading, and I'd loved writing, but I'd earned money where I could, and so I wound up getting a job in a magazine. It was a computer magazine, and for the next 8 years, I don't know whether you've dealt with a lot of people from IT.
Not really, not in the studio.
They are not great writers as a group. Okay. Technically, they're analytical. They can pull together, but when they're writing about technology and so forth, they're not great writers. So I was, a lot of the stuff, my job was to take stuff that technicians and IT people had written about the subject they knew, which was, networking protocols and the latest, the latest update to such and such a server. And for a magazine audience, for a popular magazine audience, try and translate it into English. So, I was reading a lot of dry technical material and attempting to make it interesting for 8 years. And you asked me when I thought I could be a writer, and some of these people were writing books, and I knew what their prose was when it came in. I'm thinking,
oh boy,
they must have some really great editors. And I was, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm raising a couple of children. They're very well fed. They're happy in this kind of business. And yet these guys are getting their names on the covers of books, and they really can't write. So I thought,
oh,
I could do better than that. And so I tried. That was the point at which I thought, yeah, I could be a writer. Yeah,
you did.
But at that point, I was literally I was attempting to. It's almost like it was almost like a factory job. There was text coming in. I did quality control on it and then passed it forward. So yeah, so it was that. It was assembly line writing. But I'll tell you one thing about that is that you don't. You don't get writer's block when you're doing assembly line work. It's a luxury you can't afford. You get stuff out, you get it clear, and if it gets a little formulaic from time to time, at least you get it done. And one of the biggest problems I know amongst people that I've been dealing with since is that people have wonderful, wonderful stories, and they just don't get them out. They tell them, and I listen to them, and sometimes I will recount other people's stories. In the past 3 years, I've started my own little book project, which is a periodical type project. They're called Dead of Summer and Dead of Winter. I'm working on Dead of Summer at the moment. And initially it was a friend of mine and I were doing book talks together, because it's easier when there's two of you, because when one of you wants to get a drink, the other one can take over. When you can tell the audience is getting bored, the other one will do a story while you regroup. And so we used to do these things together. And libraries, which is where we did a lot of talks, would say, what's the topic of your talk? And we'd say, Dead of Summer.
Okay.
And it's like, well, what's it about? So we don't know. It's something to do with the dead, and we're doing it in the summer. So something. So it was literally a cover. It was a bit of a joke. It was a joke name: Dead of Winter, Dead of Summer, whatever it was. That would be what we were talking about, and it was a good go-to title. And as we started, sort of going to various events and meeting people with great stories, it's like, can you write that story down? And they would go, well, try. And the stories would come in, and once again, sometimes they needed a lot of editing, but there are great stories out there. So I've been collecting them and putting them into these compilations for the past couple of years now.
So they are, as you say, probably anthologies in a way.
Yeah, they really are, yeah. In some cases, they are people that I worked with on the Weird Maryland. Brian Goodman, for example, was a newspaper man who I did a lot of work with on in Weird Maryland, and I've been in touch with him ever since. Well, he's written for every single copy of the Dead of series.
Okay.
And then there was a paranormal writer from Pennsylvania called Laurie Hull. She's done the same. I gather you had Eric Christopher Myers, the director, in at one point.
Oh, he was here.
He wrote a
As was Meg Morgan.
Oh, I'm dying to read her book. I really am.
Talk about a woman sort of like you. I was going to bring her up as an example. Is that she's a technical writer.
Exactly right.
And she's now writing a science fiction novel, which she hopes is the first of a series.
Yes, she's cranking it out. I've met. She's not yet shown me her work.
Oh, she has.
I've offered to edit it for her and all kinds of stuff. And she was playing it close to her vest, and I think she's probably going to do. From what I've seen of the way her mind works, fascinating. I've not yet got her to write for me. Eric Christopher Myers did write an article for one of the Dead of series. I'm trying to get him
to do another.
But yeah, he's promoting this amazing film that he put together.
That's right, Butterfly
So
Kisses, which everybody should see.
Well, I'm slightly biased about this.
Because you're in it.
Only because I was fascinated by. Eric called me up, and it was
on ask you to be in it.
It was on the strength of Weird Maryland, which he had read, and he said, "I'm doing this thing," and so we danced around on this phone conversation. I still don't know quite how he got my number, but we danced around the topic, and I thought, this seems like an interesting story. Then we met and talked at greater length. I'm thinking, this sounds like a very interesting story. And the fact that there is a character in it called Matt Lake who wrote a book called Weird Maryland, which meant that I didn't need to be an actor, and this was the key.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't act. Don't make me act. He said, you don't have to act. You just have to be yourself.
But you did act.
Hey?
You did act.
Well,
the first scene where it's in black and white and you're just talking about the Blink Man.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, that's right in your wheelhouse.
That's
in a
all in
way.
my wheelhouse, yeah.
Yeah, but then the part where you really get pissed at Gavin, that's acting.
It's actually, well, that was how long were we? That was probably about 2 or 3 hours that we were together, and this filmmaker Gavin that came forward that Eric introduced me to, comes in and we start talking, and he's very focused on his topic, and there is a scene in this film in which I look annoyed. That wasn't acting.
Oh, it wasn't?
It wasn't, no. The character that came in and was talking to me, I don't think all of this came in to the movie in the edit, so I think that reaction that you saw was not... what set it up was not actually what you heard. So it was very well edited in that respect.
I gotcha.
But he was dropping some comments about what he thought about bits of my book. And, you don't mess with someone and their work, So there was a little flinch there that it's like, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's like, take the camera off, because this is, I'm
getting, I'm
getting a little, I'm not enjoying this so much anymore. Have you got everything you need? Because this has to stop now. So I didn't entirely have to act at all.
Okay, I got you.
No, because he was genuinely irritating. And it's really interesting. I have seen this film with a number of people now who had no real grounding. They weren't prepared for it. I said it was a found footage horror film.
Yes.
I was in it as myself. And they were going, oh yeah, we'll come along and see it. And half the people really hated the character of the filmmaker.
Yes.
The fellow who ticked me off.
Dan hates the filmmaker.
Really?
Character.
Okay. You're not wrong. He genuinely irritated me during that scene.
The actor did.
The actor did. Well, yeah.
Not the character, or maybe both.
It was, I'm not used to the levels. I interact with people as I see them. It's why I'm having so much fun now.
Okay.
This fella was putting off a vibe that was very irritating.
Okay.
But anyway, half the people, were irritated, and a lot of people felt really sad for him and really sorry for him, because they felt what he was going through to make him so objectionable. From my moment, however, my few moments of meeting this fella, it's like, I don't like that character at all. You ticked me off in front of a camera, and I didn't like that at all. And so, my reaction was not to like him.
All right. And maybe what Eric was going for.
It wouldn't. But that man's process is interesting. The way in which Eric Christopher Meyer's brain works. Right. Is quite fascinating.
Well, it's interesting you adding that little bit, because we've already talked to him on our last live stream. We had to interview with him, so people are familiar with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that it adds to the veracity in a sense of, is it a documentary or is it not? Because you're saying your reactions were genuine. You weren't like saying lines that were scripted for you over and over, like take 20 kind of a thing. Show your anger again, Matt. Can you get it up one more time? It wasn't like that.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I've been bitten a little bit by the acting bug, so I've been on stage a couple of times since then. But at that time, I hadn't done any acting at all, and it was. Eric set up the situations that just worked, or not. I mean, I'm not one to judge it. People, the movie is winning awards, so
yes,
clearly he did something right. I was along partly because the story interested me, partly because I was needed for the story, but also I'd never seen the film being made, so I said, can I come along and watch you film other bits of it? And he's going, yeah, sure. So I saw him filming some on the street stuff. I spent a day down in Ellicott City, just lurking in the background, seeing that being done. And the process was very, very interesting. And considering the budget the budget for filming it can't have been big. No. The budget for post-production was a little more so. I mean, but the process of getting that together was very interesting. Yeah. I throw around terms like professional and this kind of stuff, not in the sense that he was being paid a lot of money for it, but in the sense that he knew what he was doing. He did it, and he did it well and efficiently. And he wasn't always everyone's friend doing it, but he got it done. So being around people who know what they're doing is really interesting. So that was what dragged me in there.
Oh, well, that's the story there. So we've got the whole story. It's your personal story about it being in a film. Now, before we quit, because we're going to run out of time here, is when I was looking at the number of books that you have either written, co-written, or edited, it's how many? Do you know how many books you've published? I don't know exactly. I saw a figure bantied about 17, but it might be more than that.
I think it is more than that. My first book I wrote in 6 weeks in 1993.
And what was the?
It was called Breaking into Windows. It was about Microsoft Windows.
Interesting.
I was attempting to be subversive and write a quirky book about technology. Right. And as I said, I was feeding a family and paying off a mortgage and doing all these grown-up things. So I would write more or less anything that was asked of me. A lot of it was magazine work. I've written for Family Circle. I wrote one article for Playboy that I know no one read.
People were too busy looking at the pictures.
I don't think I've read. I forget what it was about. All I know is that somewhere along the line,
paid you.
I had a check that was rubber stamped with
a little bunny.
With Hef's daughter. Hef's daughter was.
That's when she was in control.
That was when she was in control. Her signature was rubber stamped on this check.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I didn't frame it or anything. No, I cashed the thing.
Christine
I
or Christy Hefner.
It was Christy Hefner. Yeah.
Well, let me get into this because we don't have time. I just give you the depth of the things that you've done. Interesting. It's a variety of things. 50 ways to off an elf. Is the title of one.
Yes, that's a picture book about ways of destroying the elf on the shelf.
A Little Help from the Imps
is a translation of an 1843 German poem for children. It's like Dr. Seuss, and it charmed me. Charmed me to no end when I read this thing, and I couldn't read it to my children because they didn't speak German. I had a bit of high school German, so I kind of translated that and so had it in an illustrated form.
Some poetry, because here's what I say, the volume of poetry is Here Be Monsters.
Here Be Monsters, yes. There was, that was, the story behind that was that the Dogfish Head Brewery, I think one of the founders of the Dogfish Head Brewery was an English major. And he, every year, puts up a competition where you submit a book-length volume of poetry, and if you win, this was the key. They'll give you $200, 2 cases of beer, and they'll publish your book.
Wow.
Now, the $200 and the 2 cases of beer was obviously my motivation. And they did not pick up my book. They did not win. So I thought, well, I'll put it out anyway. So I did.
And of course, there was the Night of the Krampus.
The Night of the Krampus.
And the Krampus's carols.
Krampus carols.
Did you write the carols yourself, or were they found from other sources? Or?
Well, "Oh Run All Ye Fearful" is, it sounds kind of familiar. They're parodies of Christmas carols.
They're parodies.
They're parodies of Christmas carols. And yes, I wrote them. And I got a musicologist and music teacher to put them on staves, because I can't do that. And that all started out a long, long time ago. That has its roots in Hamden in Baltimore.
Oh, really?
There is a wonderful store there called Bazaar, which opened, and I went there and I gushed because I loved the stuff they had. So I was fanboying over them, and I said, "You should have your photograph taken with the Krampus at Christmas time." This is in July it opened, and they said, and they nodded and smiled, and they were slightly. I'm a tall guy, so I was looming a bit, and I was very enthusiastic. But I gave them a copy of Weird Maryland as a good luck. I think they sold it because they had to pay rent. But that's fine. But the two guys were great. They, come November rolls around, and they said, "We're thinking of having photographs taken with Krampus. Do you want to be the Krampus?"
Oh.
And I said, "Well, tell me about it." He said, "Well, you come up and you dress up as Krampus, and people take photographs, and we'll have a party." And I was thinking, and it'll be about 3 hours. And I was figuring, 3 hours is that's going to drag unless we do something. So I wrote a few parody carols. And we all went out and sang them on the street in Hamden and just down the road from the Miracle on 34th Street. We thought that was a subversive thing to do. Well, people liked it so well that they started doing a Krampus laugh, a Krampus run in Hamden just before Christmas, around St. Nicholas's Day.
Okay.
And so I wound up going on the first of them. And I saw some of the Krampus costumes, and I thought, they're too good. I can't do this. So I dressed up as a traditional St. Nicholas, which is a bishop's thing, and I lead everybody in song. And they had one Krampus laugh. They've had 4 of them now. They're every Christmas now.
Oh, they do it now.
Every Christmas.
They'll do it again this year.
They'll do it again this year. Very close to St. Nicholas's Day.
Okay,
so the first, somewhere around the first or second Saturday in December.
Right.
Starting at the pub Decliner Dival and going up to the Miracle on 34th Street, so all the festive lights. There'd be a whole bunch of people dressed as Krampuses.
Interesting.
And so I wound up writing a book
about
the Krampus that was a parody of the Elf on the Shelf, because you'll have noticed from that one that you mentioned earlier, I'm not a fan of the Elf on the Shelf.
Yes.
I think he's creepy, and I think the Krampus is kind of warm and cuddly by comparison. So... the Carols book came out. The Krampus book came out. I love the Krampus.
Oh.
I love it. It's like, again, this is folk tradition.
It is.
That had kind of faded away. Hadn't really made the transition from Bavaria.
Right.
Only about 10 years ago, it started to make that transition, and more cities are having Krampus events now. And Krampus is becoming part of Christmas again, which I like, actually, because I like the idea of the light and dark. These are themes that go throughout folklore. There's villains, there's heroes, there's happy endings, there's sad endings. There's light and dark in all the literature, really, but in folk stories especially. So if you're going to have a benevolent, Christkindle bestowing gifts upon the masses, all the good little boys and girls. The idea of the bad little boys and girls just not getting gifts, that's not enough. They've got to get punished. It's fair and just that the evildoers get punished. And that's why the Krampus is a good thing, because he makes sure that those who do wrong get their just desserts. So I do a lot of Krampus-themed stuff, and I love it.
That's good. I was going to say the only way, I didn't know about it until a few years ago. One of my favorite shows, it was just off TV. It was called Grimm. And they did an episode on the Krampus.
Yes. I liked that episode. I got to admit, I was a big fan of Grimm.
Yeah.
Big fan of Grimm.
And the only, before we stop, the one book, is this one of your math books that was Where the Fulcrum Lies? That's your book, isn't it?
Maybe there's some other,
January of 2017, it says Where the Fulcrum Lies by Matt Lake.
That might be another Matt Lake.
I know that
there's a few
others.
There's a bassist called Matt Lake. Well,
there's a Reverend
if you count the Universal Life Church, I'm a Reverend Doctor, actually.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
And if you count the island nation of Sealand, which is a defence platform in the Thames estuary, I'm also a Baron.
Oh, excuse me.
There's one. Do we have any time for this story?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll come back to this.
We will.
You're going to have me back, man.
We have to have you back.
All right.
And before we go, look into that camera over there and tell people your contact information.
Well, I am Matt Lake, and if you track me down on Facebook, it's probably the best way to find me. I'm That Matt Lake. So it's facebook.com/thatmattlake, and that's me.
Very good. And Matt, it was a delight having you. I look forward to this for weeks, and because I knew you'd be great. So
well, let's do it again sometime.
We will, believe me.
Because I haven't told you those. I haven't told you
lots of other stories.
I haven't told you many stories.
And that's something we'll talk about off camera.
Excellent.
And so, folks, here we go. That was a delightful 30, 40 minutes with Matt. It could have gone much longer. I am sure you will see him again here, and So until next time, I'm Paul Stefan, and good night.
You're watching Books and Authors on TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, this is Cindy Williams, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
This is Gunhild Carling, and you are watching TV Free Baltimore. You are not watching. You have to watch TV Free Baltimore.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of TV Free Baltimore's Movie Reviews. And this show, we are talking to actor Joe Cardamone. Welcome, Joe.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And tonight we want to start with talking about one of your films.
Sure.
By the Wake. And we're going to show that film to our audience, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
If it happened again, that was it.
Look, it was a mistake. No. It was a accident. Okay? A accident. I'm sorry.
Don't.
Accident.
Not right now. I'm done with you, so there's no need to discuss it. I'm gonna go in there, look at a dead girl's ashes, and I'm gonna say sorry to your loser friend, and then you're bringing me home. Oh, Frank, I'm so very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Dude, what happened? And what's with Jessa? Dude, she's done. I'm done. My life is done. Oh, God. You were in the chat rooms again, weren't you? No. Yes. She told you she wasn't going to put up with that nonsense anymore. Dude, I know. Oh, God. Oh, the TV. She owns the TV. She's going to take the TV. You're at my dead wife's funeral. You're talking about a television. A television that plays Game of Thrones next week. You know what? No, shut it. Shut it down. Now. You're right. My bad. Okay, so, did I miss anything? Dude, it's not an itinerary. Your speech. Did I miss your speech? My eulogy? Whatever you want to call it. I want to call it a eulogy. Because it's a eulogy. No, you didn't miss it. I don't know what I'm going to write. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know how I'm going to say it. Good luck with that, okay?
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate you doing it.
It is a shit show in there. Total bummer. Everybody crying and whatnot. I had to step out.
Isn't that usually how it is?
I don't know. They're going for that whole celebrate life idea. If you ask me, what's the point? The dead can't hear it anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, except for, like, heaven or whatever, right?
Sure, heaven. Listen, your father was a great man.
Wife.
Your wife was a great man, and I'm sure she was looking up with a smile.
Smiling up? Where do you think she went?
Well, the urn was front and center, so I imagine she had a pretty good view.
Are you even listening to what I'm saying?
So let's talk about that eulogy. I got a couple of good lines for you. I will never be whole again, or heaven has another angel. That always jazzes up the audience.
She's dead. How can you, of all people, be so cavalier about all this?
Oh, shit. Let me get back in there. I gotta toss around a few Hail Marys.
What the... I'm gonna do it! Do it! Do what? Okay, look. So, I've been holding on this for a little while now. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pop the question. I'm going to propose.
At my dead wife's funeral.
Yeah, I mean, something about it just feels right, you know?
What about a room with a bunch of people crying in it? Apathetic priest who's having an existential crisis. My wife's ashes in an ugly face. Feels right to you, David. That has got to be a recipe for the worst goddamn proposal in the world.
Proposal?
That's right, babe. You heard him. God dig it. I'm tired of getting the milk for free. I'm getting them jugs off their way. Let's do it. If it's one thing I learned from this
funeral
is that you got to go all in. And baby, I'm going all in. If I can't have you, God dang it, I don't want nothing at all.
Oh, I don't know, David.
No more IDKs. Baby, let's do it. Let's do it. Come on. Hold on. Wait a second. Please.
Yes! Yes! Of course! Oh, I love you so much. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Oh my God. This is amazing. In the midst of this absolute manure hurricane, here you two take this worthless day and turn it into something meaningful. Oh, Frank, there is a woman inside weeping and going for the urn. Might be the mother. I don't know. You might want to check it out. Now, you know, I can make this official.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. This has got to be like the luckiest day of my life. Like, really, Bishop?
Father.
Yeah, Father. Oh, that would be like so great. And the thing, we weren't even going to come today.
Yeah, like I said, you got termites in the bell tower and in the foundation.
But you can't go catcalling at a funeral, man.
Hey, who's the lady in the black dress?
It doesn't matter. You know what?
No, I mean,
no. We'll just
pretty.
You're okay. Yeah.
Goddamn grievers.
Did you hire him?
I don't know.
So, look, I don't know if you heard while you were in there doing your bouncing thing, kicking guys out of parties and stuff.
Funeral?
Yeah, whatever. Check this out. Boom! We're getting married. The monk says he's gonna do it today.
Why would you want to do that? You're already happy. I mean, Jesse, you're alright and everything, but I mean, why would you want to do that to yourselves?
So, what are you trying to say?
Don't know how I can say it any better. It's literally the worst thing. You spend all your time in endless conversation about who bought toilet paper, how you're gonna fix the goddamn kale for dinner, until one blissful morning where you decide to sleep in on vacation, where you spend more time in endless conversation that stresses you out more than the work you're trying to forget, that you wake to the police knocking at your door to inform you that the wicked witch, the bane of your existence, has been impaled by a rogue beach umbrella while speed walking down the coast. And it is in that moment that after 12 years, you're finally happy again. You're happy now. Why would you do that? Haven't got an angel, right?
Yep.
Now, Joe, like everybody just saw that great film that you did. Who conceived the idea of the film?
Oh, that was actually my brother and I, Pete Cardamone.
Both of you?
Both of us, yeah.
Okay.
We enjoy writing together. We get to do a lot of idea bouncing, but my brother is a wizard with ideas. It was his idea to think about somebody being there in that situation. And then we just started writing it, and we thought, oh, the character would say this, the character would do this, and this is how it would go forward. And then it just snowballed into I think we wrote it in like 2 hours or something.
So it really came to you guys quickly.
Yeah. It was a little odd how quickly that came to us.
Right, and you both wrote it, so you told me that. Now, another location is a church. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if that was what the church told you, because you never see like the interior of the church where the pews are and all that. Was that?
Yeah, that was actually our idea.
Oh, your idea.
The whole team's. So we hadn't done anything in a very, very small location yet. We said, wouldn't it be interesting, how would we keep the audience engaged without ever actually going into the wake? So we said, well, let's give it a shot. So that's mostly where the writing kind of went. Was let's do everything we can to not go in the wake, and the church would have let us in there, and they were great. The only thing that was odd was there was an AA meeting there that day.
Oh, okay.
So the guy let us in and said, as long as you guys are wrapped by 6, because the AA meeting is coming in. We're like, oh yeah, we should be fine. So like 5:30 rolls around, and we still got like 2 scenes left. And we're filming and we're rushing, and then sure enough, some of the AA people started showing up, and they were like getting in the shot on their phones. They were like, what's going on here? Like, we're just filming something. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And then they just stayed there. I was like, keep going.
Okay. Now, can you say where this church was?
I can't because I'm horrible with directions.
Oh, but I just want to sort of like
it's in
what part of Baltimore?
It's North Baltimore Mennonite Church.
Oh, Mennonites.
Yeah, yeah. They let us use it. Super great guy named Dave let us in, and they were very accommodating, very accommodating.
So your idea of, you said you wanted to do a small thing where you don't go into the wake, but I mean, I would think like independent filmmakers, and I've interviewed a bunch of folks. It's great if you're thinking of it for budgetary reasons. We don't have to have a coffin. We don't have to have a crowd of people sitting there. All those extras, that's all gone if you never go in the room itself.
Yeah.
All you get is the crying woman.
Yeah.
And
so
that's a sound thing.
Yeah, that's post. Budgetary was an added bonus to us. Should have been reversed. It should have been, hey guys, we don't have to pay any money if we don't do this. For us, it was more fun to not do that, and we were like, oh, we also don't have to spend money now.
Right. So it was more intentional for the story than it was a budgetary restriction, which a lot of filmmakers have to make those tough decisions about what to leave out. It's not quite want to be what they envisioned in the first place.
Yeah.
Now you had other members, in the cast. I don't know if you want to say anything about them and their parts. I mean, in fact.
I would if they were good, but no.
Oh, they weren't that good.
They were amazing. Yeah, no.
Because the one young woman, I think her name's Laura or something like that. Lauren. Yeah, I've already reached out to her for an interview.
Oh yeah, Lauren. The other actors in it were Lauren Mealy and Lion Beckwith. Anybody that's watching in Baltimore knows Lion Beckwith. Phenomenal actor.
Why do they know him?
Oh, he's not only is an amazing actor, but he's constantly hustling and getting roles and constantly growing and doing better and better and better.
In film?
In film, yeah.
Okay, well then, sounds like he's somebody we need to have in here.
I absolutely would.
If you know him, you'll have to tell me.
Give me his
contact
and I can do that. Is this a setup? Is this what's happening? No,
and
absolutely.
then you had the guy who played the Reverend, the priest.
Lion would be great to have in here. So would Lauren. Both great actors too, and we like to have fun on our sets. Obviously, do well. Know the lines, be prepared. But it's also, I mean, at the end of the day, we're adults playing in a sandbox is what we are, And there's frustrating days and hard stuff, but, you're still pretending to an extent, So enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we say here. We say, if it's not fun, don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. So we like to get actors and crew and everybody that kind of feels that way too. So, and those two are definitely in that category.
And of course, also you had the guy who plays the Reverend. I thought was kind
yes.
of
Oh my gosh. Sorry, sorry, Eric. I apologize. You were in it as well. Yes. No, a good friend of mine, Eric Adams, who I knew in high school, who that was actually his second role.
Really?
Anything.
And he was good.
He was amazing, and that's why we had him in this, because the first time around, like, dude, you're natural, you're amazing. So we wrote the priest role specifically with him in mind.
Oh, okay.
Because the delivery and what was written matched kind of his personality, so we wanted him to do it from the get.
Right. So. Well, isn't there a guy who's kind of walk on? He seems to be like a Bee Genie Man or something.
Yeah.
He kind of just stumbles through.
Yeah, so
he doesn't have a line or anything.
Yeah, that's our director and editor, Edmund Curran. So
he did get in there.
Yeah, he got a little cameo in it, but he's 90% of our movies, directing and editing. So.
Yeah. How long of a shoot was it? Did you shoot it in how many days?
Oh, 4 hours, 5 hours.
Really, one day?
Well,
you wrapped that in one day?
A little more than half a day, 6 hours. Something.
That's terrific. Yeah. And I know you do a lot of short films, so are they all sort of like that? They're like half-day shoots kind of thing?
Not at the beginning. Unconventional Love, that one was a full day. I think we shot till like 2 in the morning.
Well, you do have day and night scenes there.
We do. So that played into it, but I think we were shooting the entire time too. It wasn't like we got to wait for nighttime.
Yeah.
So that was one of our very first ones.
Oh, okay.
So once we started getting comfortable with each other and knowing, and Ed's really good with editing in his head.
Oh. Okay.
So he'll shoot what he knows he's going to need instead of extra coverage or extra shots. So that has helped a lot make our filming a lot more efficient. So.
Well, I mean, that's a great thing to have too, because again, you're talking about a limited budget, and I've had Eric and other people in here talk about, you can't do a lot of coverage, you can't do a lot of reshoots, on a limited budget. If your budget's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, you just can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and also I don't mind giving of my time for projects that I'm making, but when you're asking other people to come into it, you really want to be cognizant of their time. They're doing this pretty much for you, for themselves too, but they're not getting as much out of it as you are because it's your project. Right. So you want to make sure that they come in, they only have to do what they're supposed to do, they have a good time doing it, they're happy with it, and they leave as quickly as they can. So that way, you're not taking them through that 14 hours of nonsense when you could have made it 7.
Well, it's great too that like we try to do here, and because we're going to be doing live shows, is to edit in camera, which is what you say he does.
Yeah.
And that's vital. Didn't you say did it win some awards? I thought I saw, it won awards, or you said it was in festivals?
So we initially shot it for the 29 Days Later film project that is here in Baltimore. So it's like the 48 Hours, but it's more artist-centered. So you have complete control of your film. You own the film. You don't have to put any headers in front of it, or it's a competition. But you have 29 days to shoot the film.
Okay.
Of course, we didn't even need a day, but they give you that time. So we shot it for that, and I lost my train of thought with your question because I was thinking
awards.
Because I started thinking how the 29 Days Later worked, and I was going to tell you more stuff. I was like, that wasn't the question he asked me.
So did you win any awards?
The awards, we won them at the 29 days. The 29 Days Later, we won Best Writing, I think, for it. I believe it was Best Writing, yeah. And Unconventional Love, we did it for 2 years before that, and we got Best Acting and a second overall, I think.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's something I'm not aware of, and since you brought that in, and it was a question I was going to ask later, but it's a place to insert now, is that what are these competitions? I was going to ask you about the 48-hour film project, and now you say this 29 Days Later film project. It's not something that maybe those of us who are not in the film world are that familiar with. At least we don't see these competitions advertised. So could you just kind of give us all here an idea of what those two things are?
The 48 is I think it's international actually.
Oh, really?
And they have, in different cities. And you go on a Friday night. You get a team together first. You go on a Friday night, and you pull a genre out of a hat. So it could be horror or comedy, whatever.
Wow.
You get your genre, and then every team gets the same name of a character, a prop, a line of dialogue, and they all have to be in the film somewhere.
Okay.
And then, based on the items you get, you start writing your film. And I think it has to be anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes long, somewhere around there. Okay. And then you have 48 hours to write, film, edit, and physically hand in your film.
Wow.
So the 29 days later is exactly the same, except you don't get a character, a line of dialogue, any of that stuff. They only give you a small prop, and it's not a crazy prop. It's just a small one, just so they know you made the project. You didn't make the project 4 years ago, and just submitting it to the contest, because. So same exact thing. You have 29 or 48 hours to write and film, and hand in your movie.
It's a shame that it's not something like then people get to see them. I don't like
Well,
the
actually,
general public. I mean, get say, oh, here are the winners, or here's the best 10, or something, and have a crowd to enjoy those.
So that's the end part. Is they actually do have a screening.
Oh, they do.
They screen. So anybody that's able to submit in the deadline, it's screened. 48 hours first year we did it. They screened at the Charles.
Okay.
So you buy tickets and you go watch everybody's movie on the Charles, and then you can vote for audience choice or whatever other categories they have, and then they have judges decide on first place and best director and all that. But they do screen them. They do screen them.
And 29 days later,
as well, yeah.
They do that too.
Yeah, they did. There's a Creative Alliance, I believe.
Well, I was going to bring that up to you. Is that as far as your career arc, I would say, I read something about you being in the military.
Yeah.
So where did your interest in film come from?
It's fun. I'm one of the actors that didn't know until 3 years ago that they wanted to do anything to do with film. I love movies. I enjoy watching them. But I never saw it as a career path or a passion until my buddies got some camera gear. And they said, hey, we want to film something. And I'm not shy. So I said, okay, I'll be in front. I'll be your actor. I'll be in front of the camera. Because everybody else wanted to be behind the camera.
Oh, sure.
So we filmed it, and it was fun, and I had a good time. And then they wanted to do another one. So they entered the 48-hour film festival.
Right.
And they said, okay, Joe, do you want to be our actor again? And I said, sure. So we wrote a little short film. And we were sitting in the basement at 2:30 in the morning, going way over time for shooting this film. And it's in the middle of summer, and I got a burlap sack over my head. I'm tied up. The air conditioning's off because of noise.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here going like, God, I love this. This is fun. Like, I'm having a good time. Even though the conditions weren't stellar, I was having a lot of fun. And I had that epiphany moment that a lot of people talk about, like the lightning bolt. And I just, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I knew at that moment that somehow or another, I will be doing this the rest of my life.
Wow.
So, and that was about 3 years ago.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah,
and what were you doing up to that point? I mean, what did you do then, or are you still doing something else to make a living?
Yeah, to make a living, my full-time job, I work for supply chain for a health system here in Baltimore. Yeah.
Okay, but your real passion now for the last 3 years is filmmaking.
Yeah, I went all in. I started taking, I did acting classes. I did improv at the Baltimore Improv Group. I've been doing as much as humanly possible to learn and also create.
Right, and of course you have a production company, 12 Speed Production.
Yeah, that's that was something born out of, acting is very no work or lots of work, then back to no work, then lots of work. So during those dry spells, I found, again, I'm new at this, but very early on that I didn't want to wait for other people to give me opportunities or jobs. I was still going to seek them, but I didn't want to wait. So I started writing, with my brother and Ed and some other people, our own films, because, what better way to learn and grow than to start doing? And the quickest way to start doing is doing it yourself.
Right.
So we started that about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, like pretty much right after the first 48, we launched right into it and started making our films.
Now, do you have those same constraints I mentioned earlier about I can't maybe realize what I put on paper because of budgetary restrictions, or what do you do how does an independent filmmaker, not get so frustrated by not having the money, and how do you raise your money for production?
So we've raised about as much as what's in our pockets when we start the film.
Oh, okay.
So all of our films have been shot with whatever we have at the time to pay. So we are beyond low budget to the negative budget area.
Okay.
So the constraints are basically, we have a story idea, we write the story out. None of us really lean towards sci-fi or super extravagant anyway, so we haven't really had to deal with that yet, where we write this amazing fantasy film, and we're like, holy crap, we need to find investors now. So most of our stuff has been character writing driven, more so than effects or thematic driven. So we've been lucky in that regard. And then just calling in lots of favors. A lot of houses we shot at were like mine and our friends, families, actors that liked our films, that we knew that we liked them as well, wanted to be in our films. And we said, sure, we'd love to have you.
Okay.
So, it's just a lot of bartering.
There you go. I'm talking about some of the other films now. I want to bring up the one you mentioned, Unconventional Love. And I thought it was great, and I almost picked that one for people to see tonight, because it has so much of actual Baltimore in it.
Yeah.
You have a lot of scenes where people can say, oh yeah, that's there, and that's there, and that's the convention center, and those kind of things. And that's the Washington Monument, and he's sitting on the steps there.
Yeah.
And the whole thing where the drunk comes up to you.
Yeah, yeah.
But, and it has that nice ending. And I noticed that actress, you at least worked with her in one other film of yours too.
Yeah, that's actually our director, Ed. That's his girlfriend, Kelly.
Oh.
So, yeah. She gets pulled into this sometimes.
She's an herbivore too, I think.
She's an herbivore as well, yeah. Yeah.
But that's a sweet ending to that film. So people should see that one too, I think.
Yeah, so see all the films.
See them all on Vimeo or wherever he has them. Now, another thing to talk about is your use of humor as opposed to drama. Do you lean more to saying, hey, I want to do funny?
It just comes out. I can't, so one of our films that we wrote, we kept the film dramatic or thriller driven, the Awaken film. So that was our first foray into doing it, and it was hard because every time we wrote, we were like, yeah, but it would be really funny if we did, So I think it's just natural bent. It's just natural inclination to say, this would really screw up the character, and it would be really funny to watch that happen. So yeah, naturally that's where we go.
Oh, okay.
So it's not really hard. We don't write towards a joke. We kind of just write from what makes us excited or happy or what's fun to us.
Right.
So
even though isn't that the one about the two-time cops, or is it? No.
No.
This is the one about the kid, though, right? Awaken. Right?
Awaken is the guy loses time.
Yeah. The son. I think you play the father or something, don't you? Because the kid's sitting there eating breakfast and and all that. Or is it your
we're
character?
Roommates. No, he's not my kid. He's not
he's
my
a roommate.
Kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. But he loses time. That's
He loses time, and then he's trying to figure out why. So all these things, he wakes up and he's in the middle of playing cards, and he's winning. So he's actively playing cards, but he doesn't remember how he got there. And then it happens quicker and quicker and quicker.
Oh,
so he thinks things are going on in his life. Yeah. And then the credits roll, and we put a little something in there to kind of subvert the rest of it. So
at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
So I'm just saying that is probably, like you said, was probably one of your, your more serious, films that you've had, I think.
Yeah.
Now let me see, and then you're pretty busy right now. It seems like you have some current and I guess future projects, but also I want to get back briefly. It just came to me, is that you have done a little television.
I did. My first major role was playing, what was his name? Detective Mark Diano for Alaska Ice Cold Killers.
There you go.
And it was actually the lead role for the Discovery Channel show. So
that's great.
Yeah, it kind of fell into me through an agent who was working on it. Said, "Hey, I got this part. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I had no idea what I was doing, but I went there and just.
Was it like a single episode?
Yeah, it was a single episode.
It wasn't like
No. It was one of those. It was one of those. not quite. It was recreation, but the actors actually played the characters recreating it, so it wasn't like mimed. It was actually dialogue and
Okay.
So
True crime show.
yeah, true crime. There you go.
Gotcha.
Much better way of putting it than that long-winded nonsense explanation.
That's what they not pay me to say. But have you done any feature films?
I did. I just finished one. My part in it with Kevin Kangas, who's a Baltimore filmmaker as well.
I don't know him, but we got to get him in here.
Yep. Sure.
Please shoot him our way. I'm going to have a list. I asked everybody to have a list before they get out that door. Because that gentleman, the actor, the African American actor,
Lion.
Come on here.
Just shot it with him. It's Territory 2.
And what is that about?
So I play a character who wanders into this area called the Territory.
Mm-hmm.
Within the Territory are these supernatural figures of kind of like a folklore bent. So there's different areas with different characters that control specific areas of this woods. Mm-hmm. And so it's a horror film. And my character is one of the main characters along with Richard Cutting, who's another actor there. He's a great actor. Okay. And we play kind of the central anchoring characters for these other stories that go on. So it's almost like an anthology movie that they talk and then it shoots to a story about the character they're discussing. Okay. And it shoots back to us. And
well, is it something that the filmmaker has an intention to do a release?
Yeah.
Or is it for the festival?
No, he's definitely going to be releasing it. I don't want to say when because I don't,
Nobody knows yet.
I don't know. I believe it's going to be this year. So I just don't want to pin him down to a date.
Right. Now, what was Secrets That We Keep?
So, yes, that was another one. I was Miss Ash Productions, Ashley Kofelt and Courtney Burke, who now live actually in California. They moved out and they're pursuing their dream out in Hollywood, which is amazing, and they're doing really well.
Okay.
They shot their first feature here, so they asked me to play a role where I was a creepy guy hitting on one of the girls.
Oh wow, you are getting into some of the darker.
So yeah. So less comedy, more dark. So I was on set for that character.
Right. Do you like playing the dark parts, or do you like playing the bad guys? Or?
Honestly, I like whatever's interesting to me. Okay. So it could be a good guy, it could be a funny guy, it could be a straight man, it could be a creepy guy. Whatever is. One of the things that interested me about Kevin's movie was he said, you look like you could be somebody's next door neighbor or somebody that murders somebody. And I was like, okay, that interested me. That automatically brought me in. It's like, that's how you see me. Okay, I want to see then what that's about. Like, how does that play out in your film? So anything that's interesting to me, I'm game for. So
that sounds like that would be under your bio. Serial killer next door.
Serial killer next door. Just not on my resume. Just
no.
Just on the. This
is for your parts, not for who you are.
Don't put that on LinkedIn. That one.
Well, I like the name of another one that you did. It had to be one of yours because it's called the Avant-Gardener.
The Avant-Gardener. I forgot. So that wasn't one of mine actually either. That was.
You were in it. I mean.
I was in it.
I just thought because of the pun, it had to be one of yours.
That's very astute of you. Yeah, we do try to weave those into our titles. No, a musician friend of mine, Lindsay Catt, who's up in New York, she did a concept album where she did an experimental short, and the short is narrative and changes themes throughout based on the songs. So
interesting.
It follows her album that she released.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film too. That's been through a bunch of festivals she's won a bunch of awards. So it's wonderful. So
and that's helped you. Now, here's something I always ask everybody here, because the Maryland film scene, and we're going to try to do a show on that, is not very hospitable to local filmmakers. I mean, we've talked about in budgets, and the Maryland Film Board gives out money, but at least up until recently, all that money will go to like House of Cards, or all go to Veep, or something big production they're bringing in from Hollywood. But the local filmmakers don't get it. Let's say, hey, film office, I maybe only need $20,000 to make my film, or I need $50,000 to make my film. Just want like little budgets so they can do their projects. And it doesn't happen. So some people leave then and go to Hollywood. They go to Atlanta. They go to where the work is. And I've encouraged every one of the Maryland filmmakers in my series that I'm doing is please stay here in Maryland and build us up, because we have so many talented people.
Oh, yeah.
Both the front of and behind the camera that people don't know about.
Yeah.
And part of what we do here on TV Free Baltimore is want to let people to see and hear people that they should know about that they don't know about.
That's very wonderful.
Are there any other projects or things in the offing, or a dream project? 'Cause I know Eric has a dream project, but he doesn't really want to talk about. But do you have, anything else in like pre-production or anything you can talk about?
Yeah, so I'm working on 2 projects right now, 2 separate groups. I co-wrote this dramatic pilot. I mean, it's got levity, but it's not comedic.
Okay.
It's about a modern day American Civil War. I co-wrote that with my friend Rain, who actually lives in New York.
Okay.
And we finished it's a 60-page script, so it's a full hour length show. We've got the Bible, we've got the pitch packet, we've got it all done. Working on the final draft now, so we're going to start putting that out there and
pitching it.
Pitching it.
And you guys are doing that on your own? You don't have anybody who can do it, who does it for you, like an agent or something?
No, we're doing it on our own. We want to kind of try to maintain as much control as we can. I know that gets iffy when money starts flowing in, but until that point, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the other one is it's called The Emergence. It's a sci-fi show that we're actually filming in Baltimore with Edgar Nazario, who
I believe he's spoken to me about Emergence in his interview.
Yep, wrote that with him. I'm going to be one of the characters in it as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to be starting shooting that hopefully within the next month or so, actually. So.
Right, and you will stay here in Baltimore.
I have no plans of leaving. I mean, for acting, for
somewhere else.
Filmmaking, I don't see myself going anywhere else.
Right.
But as an actor,
yeah.
If they want me to be in this film that's filming over here, I'm not moving anywhere.
You're not going to go where the work's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if they say, hey, here, Joe, here's 5 seasons on this show,
that's
in contract, it's different. Do I foresee that happening in the near future? No. Would it be amazing? Yes.
Okay. I mean, other person had told me, they said, I thought it was a great idea, said, the way films are made today, you could, for example, get a role, go on location and do your week or 10 days, and then you come back to Baltimore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my house is here, my family's here, my extended family's here. So.
Right, so there you go.
Yeah.
Well, great. And all these other projects are coming up. We want to hear about them. We'll have you come back in.
Anytime.
Anything we can do, to get you guys back in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for now, though, so people do know about all these amazing little films that you've made, look into your camera and tell folks your contact information, please.
Sure. Our films, you can find them vimeo.com/12steed. It's 12, S-T-E-E-D. You can find me at The Joe Cardamone on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, those are the 2. Yeah. Website's jcardamone.com. So, yeah.
Terrific.
That's where I am.
All right, Joe. Well, it's been a kind of a very swift half hour, and
that was cool.
and we've got to have you back here at the party. And until then, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
You're very welcome. And now I want to let the audience know that we've reached the end of another episode of our program of TV Free Baltimore, your film reviews. And it was actor, filmmaker, I'll even say, even if he doesn't want to say that, Joe Cardamone. And until next time, please tune in to our other programs too. Good night.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to another edition of the program. And today, in our series, in the sense of going back and forth, talk to various people in the film industry here in Maryland, you may have wondered sometimes when you see a fight scene or a car crash or somebody falling out of a building, what's that about and who are the people that do those things? Well, those are, stunt performers. And today we have, and we're lucky to have, one of the well-known stunt performers in our area, Dylan Hintz. Welcome, Dylan.
Hi, Paul.
Tell us a little bit, first, your bio.
My bio?
A little bit like, where you're from, how, that kind of thing, a little background, where you went to school, just a little, about you, not about your career. I'm not talking about your career bio.
I'm born and bred in Montgomery County, Maryland, Shady Grove Hospital. Grew up around Gaithersburg and Lanesville my whole life. Eventually graduated from Quince Orchard High School and went out to prestigious Salisbury University on the Eastern Shore. Started a film club out there while studying communications and film theory. Acted a little bit. Did a couple of short films and a couple of little indie produced films with the other filmmakers out there, and then came home and was like, what now? And then eventually stunts.
So then you mentioned interest in movies and some of that communications. So what came first for you, the interest in stunts or interest in movies?
So this is where it gets kind of interesting for me because I've only kind of had this realization over the last couple of years. I was raised by my mom to love movies. She took me to see the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman movie in theaters in 1989. I was born in 1987.
You were 2.
I was like 18 months old.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I've just been kind of marked since the beginning to do this kind of thing. When I was a child, I lived on a street called Deanna Drive near Ladensville, Maryland. It was in the middle of nowhere. There were only like 3 other kids on the block. And I was the kid that was saying, let's play superheroes, let's do haunted houses, let's do stunt shows in the summer, like we did like an Indiana Jones show. I have no idea where all that came from. It might have had something to do with watching Terminator 2 when I was 5 years old. I have no idea. Seeing aliens when I was 6. All these things were always fascinating to me, seeing other people create other worlds. But along with playing superheroes and all this other stuff, I always loved being physical. And I did a little bit of sports, but I was never a competitive kid. I just wanted to create. So I think what I've realized in the last 5 or 6 years running the Stunt Coalition and building short films and performances and theatrical productions and making movies, I've always been loving merging movement with creation.
Okay, well, it sounds like I was going to ask you, you said you must have been an active kid,
On my own time. I was that kid that when he played baseball in like 7th grade was the one digging his hands into the outfield, not paying attention.
Oh, okay.
My ADD extended as far as my imagination did. So,
So you have ADD, or
I don't know.
You don't know. You just
It's my generation. It's
all right.
what we. But when I'm on a set working stunts or something like that, I'm super focused. Like I'm all alert. I'm totally invested. It's just something clicks. So I don't think it's like really an ADD thing. I think it's just what interests you. My younger brother loves sports. Me, I don't know what sport's going on right now. I don't even know. So
baseball.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the hockey championship.
The hockey, I did see that on Facebook.
The Caps.
Yes.
You should be happy with that.
Hockey is cool.
Yeah, because we just had a guy in here, Mark Schell, who does films.
Oh yeah.
And he's a big Caps fan.
I've worked with him before.
He's a big Caps fan.
Mark's great.
Yeah, he was here last week.
Oh.
And so part of it to say, now, where did martial arts or fighting come in for you? I mean, some kids, they take their kids to karate school when they're kids. And did you get involved with martial arts at a young age?
Originally, I did. I did martial arts. I did karate when I was like 7 years old, but maybe something wasn't clicking, and my parents were like, this probably isn't for you right now, so we're going to pull you out of martial arts for right now. And I didn't come back to it until I got into high school. And I was really looking for a physical outlet, and I wasn't really into joining the sports teams in high school. I tried doing theater, I didn't really get into that, but I found a kung fu school local to where I lived that didn't even have a name yet. It would eventually be called Self-Mastery Systems. And it was a traditional kung fu school, and it was very much about meditation and forms and conditioning, very little about fighting. So it was really cool. I was learning the art before I was learning the practical application and the combat.
So you also talked about you did a little acting previous. So part of you would say, I would say, here's a choice to say, why, let's say, not take an acting career path and instead take a stunt career path?
Oh, that's a great question. I was kind of always two sides of the coin. You know, I wasn't really sure how to get into stunts when I first started. I didn't really think about it as much. I think a lot of people, when they want to be a performer, they think either an actor or a musician or something like that, somebody that is in the spotlight. I was very fortunate because, you know, I grew up in a time where mini DV was actually on its way out. I was in that last generation of mini DV filmmakers. So I had a mini DV camera, and I learned how to make movies, and I got to do that all of the senior year of high school into my early college. But of course I was behind the camera, so I'd only be in front of it occasionally, but I really did love acting. So I did some theater in high school, and I did some theater in college, but it didn't necessarily stick, but I did like acting for the camera. What did end up happening, though, is one summer I applied for Six Flags America to be in their stunt show, and I got in. And I was merging all of this stuff, the martial arts, the stunts, the acting, you know, and it was the best summer job anybody like me could ask for. You know, 3 shows a day, 5-6 days a week, 80-degree weather with an Amadeus wig on, 90-degree weather, 100-degree weather. It was
very, very warm. Right?
Yeah, but it was amazing. I sweat a lot.
Yeah, Six Flags in the summer of 2009.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That was it.
That pirate show or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you've done your research.
I do that.
Ah, the skeletons in the closet
and that's
coming out.
And that's where it started for you, really? As far as getting a taste of performing and doing combining some acting with stunts, and you played 2 roles, I believe.
Yeah, I had a dual role. Usually in those shows, people would get cast for multiple roles, and we'd sort of switch around. But in this summer, originally I got in, but I couldn't take it because I was still in college.
Oh.
But I made the best decision I ever made on that phone call when they said, we'd love to have you. I'm sorry, I'm still in college for another 2 months. But if anything comes up, you can call me.
All right.
And somehow, 2 months later, they were like, hey, 2 of our guys didn't work out. Can you come in? And so I did. This was the first time I actually got to do anything paid and professional in front of an audience or in front of a camera or anything like that. And just that first feeling of validation of being paid to do something that I loved was amazing. And it was also the same summer that I took my first Kung Fu test. So it was like this big confluence of just all these things that I loved kind of coming and pouring themselves into just one moment for me.
So you weren't one of those people, let's say, were influenced by a movie like, or the series of movies, The Karate Kid.
I love The Karate Kid, but it wasn't a big influence for me.
Okay.
I will say, though, that when I asked to be in the Six Flags stunt show, it was a lot because I grew up watching the Batman stunt show at Six Flags.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, when they had that, like, I guess 15 years ago, 17 years ago, before the Christian Bale movies came out and they decided to pull back on the Tim Burton look, I was like, I want to drive the Batmobile or I want to be the Joker or anything like that. So that really influenced me. But martial arts movies have been a big part of my life. You know, I watched 36 Chamber of Shaolin 3 times in a row the night before my Kung Fu test. I've been a huge fan of Jet Li's Fearless since it came out in theaters. You know, older movies as well, but those are like 2 of my highlights.
Now, like for TV, it's a show my parents still like watch, is Walker, Texas Ranger. And boy, was there a lot of pseudo fighting in that.
Oh no, there's fighting. It's Chuck Norris's style.
It's his style, and even the bad guys a lot of times. I mean, it's surprising to me. He was blowing people away, but a lot of times the bad guys also had some of the same moves he did with the round kicks and the whole thing.
I haven't watched the show to have like a photographic memory of it, but what I will say is like I'm sure that's the kind of show that started a lot of careers.
It probably did.
And I will say that anytime I walked into the nursing home and my grandmother was watching that show, she'd look at me, and depending on what my facial hair was like, she'd be like, oh, you're just like him. And I'm like, yeah. She would always compare what I was doing to being on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh, that was her reference point.
My grandmother, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That or watching Gunsmoke or something. You
Right.
know,
Something like
cowboy
that.
stuff.
But I guess as it further goes along, because I can jump back and forth a little, is to say, okay, you did that thing in 2009, all right? From that, though, had you made that fork in the road yet and said, oh, acting or stunts, or can I do both?
No. I always wanted to see where the world would take me.
Okay.
I like acting. I do. And if you want to hire me to act, I'm available to act. You just got to pay me. And I
Hear that, folks?
Well, see, I feel like that's the difference is like, you know, I don't know if I'll ever be the stunt guy that falls out of like the 120th story building in LA on fire, you know, in slow motion in a Metallica video. But I love fight scenes. I love fight choreography. I love action scenes in movies. When it comes to acting, I never developed a taste after doing it for like a year in the DMV area on a bunch of indie films and everything like that. I never developed a taste for like, I want to get that Oscar performance. I want to like change the world with the way that I talk. I like doing it, but it's never been what I've wanted to do to affect the world around me as much. So I went more into stunts because I love working with people to see how I can help them learn to move differently. That's why I started the Stunt Coalition. I wanted to have people to play with in this way. And when I started seeing some people were getting a lot out of it, it got my brain turning in another direction, which is going to be like my next part of my career, maybe for the next 5 years down the road after I'm done with stunts or something
We'll
like
have
that.
to hear about that.
Yeah.
If you're ready to talk about it.
There's things that I can say and there's things that I won't.
Because, I mean, there are people out there who are, you know, actors who do their own stunts or they're action stars.
Yes.
Or they do say they do 80 or 90% of their stunts. I think even at his age, Tom Cruise is supposed to be still doing most of his stunts on Mission Impossible.
He does a lot. He does a lot. I mean, the inside industry scoop is that he does a lot. He has a double. Even a lot of us in the industry don't know who that guy is. I'm sure there's plenty of people that do. I don't. But he does a lot of his own stuff. Well, I mean, it's a risk-based occupation.
Yes, unfortunately.
Expendables isn't
we'll
just
get
the
into
title of a movie.
those risks in a little while. So let me see, where am I? All right, yes, I got through the Six Flags. All right.
Best summer job.
Here, part of it is, what skills are needed to be a stunt performer?
Well, first you have common sense skills, which most of us start out having very little since this is the career we want to pursue. But basics. You have to have a solid sense of physicality. Like, you have to have good spatial awareness. You need to know where you are. You have to have good coordination, and you need to be physically fit. What you're going to be doing is going to be take after take after take after take. So it's not like it's something that you can just do once and be done with. You do have to have, you shouldn't have a death wish.
Okay.
You shouldn't be like a daredevil sort of guy that's looking to jump over the Grand Canyon, although legacy stunts are a thing. You should want to be able to preserve yourself for the next job. So you do have to have a little bit of an adrenaline addiction, but you also need to have a sense of personal responsibility. One of the things that I love about stunts is that it humbled me and made me care about the people around me a lot more. That's one reason why I got into it more than acting, is that it was a job where you look out for the other guy, you look out for production, and you do look out for yourself. That being said, one of the number one things about being a stunt performer is knowing when to say, no, I can't. Because, an actor can do a dramatic scene and they can actually take some psychotraumatic damage if they go too deep into a character. We can break our necks doing some of the stuff that we're asked to do, especially if we're not at the skill level where we can do it. So like I said, I'm not going to, if someone said, hey, would you want to jump out of this 120-story building tomorrow, I'd be like, you need to get somebody with a little bit more experience than me.
Okay.
So humility is a big part of stunts. You do have to be brave, and you do have to step it up from time to time. You do have to be tough. You have to cowboy up. You have to do the stuff that isn't going to be fun. But you get paid pretty nicely for it, and you get to do some cool stuff, and you get to have the best job in the world, which is working on movies.
Well, there you go. I think you're starting to answer some of the questions I asked earlier, which is great. You're coming to awareness of what one of the things that got you into stunts as opposed to
got me-
acting. You just answered that.
It's fun.
All right, well, give us what your skill set is. The various skills.
Okay.
If somebody wants to hire you as a stunt performer, what is your skill set?
Okay. For starters, I do have enough of an acting background that I know how to perform for camera, and I know how to perform for an audience. So, especially if you're ever going to be on a set and the director's asking you to do a thing, you got to be directable. One of my biggest first stunt scenes was working on a TV show called Outsiders.
Okay.
I didn't have to fall off of a high building. I didn't have to get lit on fire. I didn't have to do a very complicated fight, but I did have to do this rush up a hill, fighting through the mud. This video's on YouTube. And I didn't have any lines, but after the first take, the director said, that was great, except you were really goofy and over the top. And I was like, okay, because I gave them everything I could, and it was this ridiculous scene where we were all hillbillies fighting our way up a mountain so that I could get married. Okay. The scene explains itself.
But it was too much. You gave them too much.
I gave them too much. I was too much of that yokel sort of
so
of
they
look.
wanted to dial it down.
Dial it down.
Yeah.
So in take two, I dialed it down. I ran up the hill. My eyes got big, but my mouth didn't. You know, I was aware. The acting was there. I was still really physical. I still got kicked to the ground. I still got kicked around, and the director was like, oh, the stunt guy can act. So being able to take direction. Through that entire process of that scene, I had to remember different fight beats. I had to interact with people of all different types of body types. I had to slip in the mud. I had to fall over. I had to roll around. These are all my basic skills, are rolling, tumbling, what we call ground and pound, which is hitting the ground hard. Fight choreography, which can either be short little bits, but really if you want to be a high-level stunt performer, you have to do long-form choreography, which can be anything from 12 to 20 to 50 moves at a time. They're not necessarily bop, 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 bop Jackie Chan moves, but you know, you could be doing like a long take hallway fight like in Daredevil where there's like 6 beats per every like 20 seconds and they're just hard hits and hitting the ground and getting up, acting like you're breathing really heavy, being really tired without being really tired. So it is a performance-based skill. I can do some falls. I can fall up to about 20, maybe 30 feet, depending on what kind of airbags provided for me or the stunt in general. I've been lit on fire a little bit, so I can do a little bit of that. I'm looking to get more training in that soon. And I've ridden wires a couple of times, not professionally yet, but in training. So that's when they hook you up and they zip you around a room or something like that.
Oh, okay. I think I was say maybe the famous, I got the guy's name here, but he invented something called the decelerator.
Yeah, jeez, I should know that name, shouldn't I? I don't know, is that a Hal Needham thing?
No, but that'll be a quiz later.
Yeah, ooh, I'm feeling that one.
I'll look him up. But my point was, I noticed too, we talked about different skill sets, I noticed that you actually, I don't know if you're trained, but you did fencing in turn.
Yes, I got to do a small sword fight in AMC's Turn. It was choreographed by Kevin Inoue, who is a Society of American Fight Directors certified teacher. He's also a SAG-AFTRA stunt performer. He was out of Richmond at the time. I believe he's somewhere in the Midwest now teaching at a school. It was very awesome. Kid Richmond hired me as the stunt coordinator. He hired me to be the performer because I had some sword experience, but I hadn't used that weapon before. I hadn't actually ever done traditional fencing or even Olympic fencing, but I had taken some stage combat weapons and I had done some other sword play. So I was very lucky because Kevin was hired to be my scene partner because he knew the weapon.
Right.
So the first day we came in for like the fitting was also our first like fight, build, and rehearsal day. And Kevin and I, we just banged out this fight for like 5 hours.
Great.
You know, and then on the day when we were hired to be on set, we got there at 7 in the morning, we got dressed up, we got wigged up, had nothing to do for 12 hours, banged out the fight for another 8 hours over the 12-hour day. And then at 7 o'clock when the sun went down and we were brought onto set, we did the fight 3 times and it ended up in the show, which was really cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, you're a fencing master or anything. Because I was a guy who used to teach everybody how to sword fight in Hollywood in the old days. You know, like Errol Flynn, all those guys, he taught them how to do all those great scenes they did. You know?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys. I mean, you got like Bob Anderson.
I think that was him. I think that was the guy.
Yeah, there was another guy that a big stage combat conference that Kevin and I went to 2 years ago called the Paddy Crane Workshop up in Canada is named after him. He was one of Errol Flynn's stunt doubles, and he brought a lot of theatrical fencing to a lot of the world. So.
Well, I think part of what you're talking about too, and when I talk about that outsiders thing, that to make stunt acting believable, you really do have to also be an actor in the sense, we would say in music, you have to be able to sell it to make it seem real.
Yes. Yeah. Selling, reactions, those are your bread and butter. If you can't sell a punch, if you can't sell a reaction, and if you can't hit the ground and make it look gnarly, like you have to make it look worse than it is.
You have to eat dirt.
Yeah, you have to eat something. Rat, dirt, there's
whatever's
other words.
there on the ground.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's a big part of the sort of glossary of terms right there is you've got to go.
Yeah.
And you can't make it look soft.
So you're not saying that to be a stunt performer, you have to be a martial artist.
No, but it can help. But it can also hinder.
Oh, it can hinder. How can it hinder?
If your only background is martial arts, which there are martial arts that are based in reality, there are martial arts that are based in tradition, and there are martial arts that are based in performance in a sense that there are demos and everything like that. But if all you've ever done is this one specific type of movement, you might have trouble adapting to what's needed for the camera. And that's not something that you can't train out of. It's just everything that you were taught that was effective can no longer be effective. You can't throw a punch the same way in real life as you can on film. There are some martial arts movies and some martial arts styles where they hit each other. You've got the movies in Indonesia, you've got the movies in Thailand. But you know, for the American style of it, we do prefer to use stacked hits or light contact hits, or you know, we do different camera tricks to sell what we're doing most of the time. But being a high-level martial artist is a huge asset. I've trained in a lot of martial arts. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different martial arts. I am a black belt in nothing.
Oh, okay.
I've been a senior student in Kung Fu. I'm an apprentice instructor in Filipino Combatives Global under Felix Cortez. I've been a coach with the Maryland Jeet Kune Do Academy, but in no way, shape, or form do I ever go, I'm a martial arts master. I've taken everything I can from the different stuff that I've learned, and I apply it when I can for choreography, and I've also used it so that when I'm training with these guys, I'm learning different body mechanics. I'm learning how the body moves, and I'm also learning what they're doing to me with their styles so that I know how to react to it. So what they can do to me is what I need to be able to sell, because when like the Kempo master in the movie, like Perfect Weapon or whatever, comes and beats me up with all these moves, I need to actually be like, I need to know what all those reactions are.
Yeah, you have to know what's coming.
Yeah, I have to know what's coming, and then I have to know what it looks like to be hit by it. Or at least I have to show what it should look like to be hit by it.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing about being a real martial artist. If you're a trained fighter, if you're like an MMA fighter and everything like that, you're actually training to like absorb hits.
Yeah.
And like keep like a stiff neck and keep like a tight frame.
Yeah.
So you're all tight like this, and you know, this doesn't look good selling a hit. You have to go boom, boom, boom.
Right.
That part I'm great at.
Okay.
You know, so I've taken what I've learned and I've applied it to the medium in which I have to present it.
Right. Now, I don't know if this is true anymore, but I think myth, and this is again educating the audience, because I like to get people who are also behind the camera, is to say that it used to be, I thought, they used to say years ago, and I can talk about the guy who gets set on fire, they used to say that stunt performers get paid more if it's a more difficult stunt, like getting set on fire or 20 feet out of a building, or even there are artists that are just specialists in certain things, like being set on fire, or as I've seen in somebody I want to get in here, their title is precision driver.
Ah, okay. Those are two separate questions in a sense, and I'll explain.
Please.
I'll explain the first part
Enlighten
first.
us all.
Well, okay, first of all, I'm 7 years-ish into being a professional, so since 2009 when I worked at a theme park and then moving up into the industry, in 2013 when I got my SAG eligibility, and then 2014 when I got my SAG card. So I'm working my way further into the industry. The budget and business side of things is something that we all, on the younger years, don't research enough, and we probably should. But I will say, when you are doing a more dangerous stunt, that can cost more. Just renting the equipment can cost more. So usually there's a kit rental, and of course the person that's renting out that kit's going to also collect that money. One fire burn, one take of that could, let's say, theoretically, hypothetically, cost $1,000. Well, if you want to light me on fire again, that's going to be another $1,000. If you want me to fall 40 feet again, that's going to be another $800. Now, myself, I've done a couple of hard hits to the ground, and the stunt coordinator, who I was working for, would pen in under the adjustments a $200 stunt adjustment, a $200 bump, sometimes is what we call it. So you do get more money for the more hazard you put yourself through on a fully financed set.
Right.
If you're doing an independent film or something like that, it's going to be like, look, we have $125 a day. We'll let you do what you want to do so you can get in your reel. Great, I'll do something big because I know you'll shoot it the way I need you to shoot it because you're not paying me anything. So that's our kind of like trade for work.
Gotcha.
And that's why a lot of stunt guys and a lot of actors as well do student films and stuff like that. It's because they have a higher expectation of knowing what they're going to get out of it, as opposed to like anything I've ever done for TV, which usually goes through the editing blender.
Right.
You know, that one shot and turn, that little sword fight that we did, I'm super pumped because it's one long take. It was supposed to be chopped up, actually. There was supposed to be dialogue going on in between. It ended up being part of a montage, but that's still only a third of the fight.
Yeah.
But it still is cool enough that I like putting it on my reel because it's obvious that this was for a real movie or a real TV show. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
The second part, the precision driving thing, is kind of a modern myth.
Oh, it is?
Precision driving is not its own class.
Oh, okay.
Now, again, I could be mincing my words a little bit here, but I have gone to a stunt driving program. I've been to Rick Seaman's stunt driving school, the one that he hosts up in Walton, New Jersey. Stunt driving is stunt driving is stunt driving. Background driving is background driving is background driving, or just regular driving on screen. So you're either driving, which is always precision because you have to hit a mark, you have to not hit anything else, or you're stunt driving. And that's really the SAG-AFTRA, this is this and that is
That's
that.
it.
That should be it. Precision driving is sometimes, by my understanding, and I could be wrong, so feel free to correct me out there on the YouTubes, there was kind of like a branch of it that was brought in for commercial, like when you're doing like a car commercial and the car's like driving beautifully down the highway or something like that. But there was also a time, I can't remember if it was the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, where supposedly some assistant director or unit production manager basically got together a bunch of background, trained them up to do, like if this was the skill level, this high of the skill level, but trained like a bunch of people to be a core specific unit to be hired to be precision drivers of America or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not knocking anybody's way to get work or anything like that. I'm just saying stunt driving is supposed to be anything hazardous is stunt driving, anything not is regular driving.
Okay, so it's not something that came out of the Fast and Furious series or anything.
I'm sure somebody was used somewhere along the line, but I'm sure that that movie series also employed a lot of stunts.
Now, what I had heard too, and you can tell me if this is true, they said to be actually a professional stunt person, you have to have some kind of fight training or go to a fight school, and you have to get some sort of certification. Is that true?
No. There are no certifications.
Well, that will blow out of YouTube because I think I got that from Wikipedia.
That's okay. Now,
and I'm not worried. We want to correct Wikipedia.
Well, okay, so I believe, and I could be very wrong here, that in both Australia and England there is some sort of stunt certification of some kind.
Right.
I need to research that more, but that's what I heard way back in the day when I first started.
But not in America.
In America, it's the Wild West.
Okay.
Your career is based off of your reputation. So if you go on a YouTube show and you say a bunch of things that aren't true and you make stuff up, your reputation goes downhill. And then maybe you don't get hired again. Or you go and you say, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll figure that out and I'll get back to you.
Right.
The more you lie, the worse it gets. Certifications can be a thing. You can get certified to show up to a class and take a class and have a certificate of completion.
Right, sure.
It's just like martial arts. Like a martial arts certificate says that somebody says that you have this.
Right.
So for instance, I have a certificate of completion for taking Rick Seaman's driving school.
There you go.
The motion picture driving clinic. I did a full week of it, so I did level 1 and level 2. That means I feel comfortable behind the wheel doing certain things. But that doesn't mean that right out of that school, they're going to hire me to do a 180 or a 360 or do an insane car chase. The first job I'm probably going to get is just driving next to another stunt car while they're going crazy in between the background cars and the stunt cars. I'll probably be the one closer to it, like a buffer car, kind of. There are certificates that you can get for fighting through stage combat, such as through the Society of American Fight Directors. I have 8 of those. I've done all 8 weapons in the Society of American Fight Directors.
Okay.
But really all that matters is usually the demo reel. Can you show what you can do in a video? And a lot of coordinators now want to see less editing and more performing. Show what you're capable of. Can you do it over and over and over again? Can you do it reliably? So reputation, reliability, and being able to demonstrate what you're capable of, and a resume with references, it's a lot of R's, not a lot of certificates. But does it help if you're OSHA certified? Probably. Does it help if you're first aid CPR certified? Probably. The set medic should take care of that stuff, but it's nice to know that you know things. And the more certifications you have in other things, like you do have to be scuba certified, you know, to do scuba.
Yeah.
You know, but
Sure.
it's per the skill set.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, I also read, and you can either tell me it's true or that it's again a myth, that stunt performers need to be insured.
I mean, if you need to get your own insurance on a multi-million-dollar film, you better figure out who you're working for.
So I just wondered. I said, my question was, does the film company insure you, or does a stunt performer have to carry his or her insurance from job to job?
I think anybody should have their own personal insurance.
But I mean, for doing something, you know, it's riders are in there, the weird stuff that you're doing. You know?
It is the production's responsibility. Sometimes, like even on indie films and stuff not every independent film you're ever going to work on is going to have full insurance. If that's an issue for you, walk away. If you think you're going to be pressured into doing something, or if you think the worst might happen, walk away. If you require that they have insurance and they don't have the budget for it, they might not get it. We're talking very low budget films.
Yeah.
Once they're assigned like a SAG sort of agreement of some level, I don't know if it's required for them to have insurance. I'll go ask the SAG-AFTRA office tomorrow. Like I'll call them up and ask. But it is expected that they have like workman's comp and stuff like that.
Sure.
So the production should be insured for stunts, because if they don't have the money to be insured for stunts, then a lot of the times the producer's going to be like, well, then we're not going to do the stunts. We're just going to do it all off camera.
Right. You know, the thing with the risks in being a stunt performer, I'll touch on that briefly. What I read was that because you did the Six Flags show, they said that stunts are more dangerous in a live show than on a film set.
There's a lot of reasons for that. And I would tend to agree with that. I think the number one reason would be, I don't want to say carelessness, I would say complacency. Let's say you've done the same show 30 or 40 times, and it's like, I know it's going to happen, I know it's going to happen, I know it's safe, I know it's not safe, I've done it 100 times, it's fine. So one time one guy doesn't check his gag. Like there's a zip line or something and he doesn't check the brake for it because he's done it 30 or 40 times, and he's complacent with it.
Gotcha.
That's when the injury is likely to happen. You're also talking about like, a lot of stunt shows are like kind of where it's like amateur baseball. It's like it's where you get started. It's a good place to train and it's younger people in shape. So maybe they're going to get more likely to get hurt in that case. There's probably also a smaller ratio of employment versus like the film industry, because there's only so many stunt shows now.
Right.
But I would say complacency is the big thing, because when you're on a film set and the pressure's on, like you're double, triple checking everything. You're reverse engineering everything. You're trying to make sure nothing can go wrong. There's always that factor that you don't know, but you're trying to imagine every single thing. Stunts for film are always supposed to be as safe as humanly possible. It's a safe risk. It's not a risky risk. You know, it's controlled chaos. So, I mean, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but that would be my thought as to why that could be a thing.
Okay. And have you been hurt or broken any bones in your work?
Not in my work.
Okay.
I've only ever injured myself in training. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I saw a lot of different titles of things with stunts, and so maybe you can enlighten in a little bit of time we have left. One is a fight coordinator.
A fight coordinator, similarly but different to a fight choreographer, tends to bring in the people for the fight. It's probably a term that's evolved since it first came out. The stunt coordinator on a large budget production is doing like the coordination for everything.
Right.
The car chases, the falls, advising the fights. But they're not going to be able to choreograph every single unit. They're not going to be in charge of every single rigger. They're not going to be in charge of every single mechanical thing. They're not going to be lighting every person on fire. So they're going to have units that are sort of splinters of the central head of the beast, as it were.
Okay.
So a fight coordinator is usually a specialist brought in who really understands fight choreography, also maybe training the actor, helping them get up to a level where they can do more of their own fight, working with the doubles to work with the actors so that the actors and the doubles know the fight together, so that they can kind of seamlessly switch out. You know, it's like having a second link in your chain of command.
Now, what's the difference between a cover stunt and a utility stunt?
It's a cover stunt.
That's what I thought I wrote down.
Yeah, it's a cover stunt.
Cover stunt coordinator.
Oh, cover stunt coordinator, which is something similar to a term that I've put on my IMDb,
right.
is, for instance, I worked on a TV show called Brain Dead for, I believe it was CBS, and I came in as the stunt performer for the day under another coordinator, who I thought was gonna be there because it was a big New York production shooting a second unit in DC. I showed up on set and I found that my name was under stunt coordinator, and I was like, "Oh, this is new." I mean, I'd had like 10 credits at that point. I kind of knew some stuff,
So
but I
you
was
were
still
covering for the stunt coordinator.
I was covering for the stunt coordinator.
There it
I
is.
was also the only stunt performer that day, and all I had to do was run into an actress. So I could understand why the stunt coordinator might not want to drive the 500 miles or so from New York to DC to like do the gag himself.
Now, was there something I wrote it down? It said utility stunts.
Utility stunts are basically like stunts on hand. You know, do you need somebody to move a mat?
Yeah.
Do we need to wait for the train?
No, go.
Okay. Do you need somebody to move a mat? Do you need somebody to run around in the background and fall over? You know, do you need a stunt person buffering between background and the major action?
Gotcha.
So like a full-fledged stunt performer is probably doing something that's highlighted, like falling off of a ledge or something like that. A utility stunt performer is usually somebody that's assisting with like a larger thing or helping out with something not necessarily on camera, like running spotting on a mat or something.
Now, we toss around a lot, and people commonly, and I wonder if I get it right, stunt double. Now, does that simply mean that the stunt actor or actress does the stunt work for the actor?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty
all it
basic.
really means.
Yeah, so I mean, a stunt double is somebody that's put in when anything that the principal actor themselves, they could possibly do it, but it might be too risky for insurance reasons. It might be too risky for production reasons. I mean, if they stub their toe and they can't walk for a week, production's going to stop.
Yeah.
So anytime that it seems just a little too risky, a stunt double is going to be put in. Now, most lead actors in any movie that has any sort of action whatsoever, they're going to have a stunt double that's available for any of those scenes, regardless of whether or not they're used. So like, for instance, when I worked on Black Mass, I actually didn't have to do any on-screen doubling for Jesse Plemons, but I was hired to work on the fight, and I was hired to be there for all of his scenes that involved him doing anything physical.
Oh, but you also, I think, stunt doubled for Eric Roberts.
Eric.
Did you not?
Yes. I stunt doubled for Eric Roberts on a local film. What was it called? Oh, man, now I feel bad. Day of the Gun. Of course, how could I forget that? For Wayne Shipley.
Oh, the Wayne Shipley.
Yeah,
yes.
the Wayne Shipley.
Just finished the movie.
He just did another one, yeah. He wanted me because for some reason he looked at Eric Roberts and he looked at me and he went, you look just like him. Okay?
In a long shot, maybe?
Yeah, but the fun thing was, Eric was very capable of doing a lot of his own stuff. Originally, they weren't sure if he needed a riding double. Eric owns horses.
Oh, okay.
Eric doesn't need a riding double.
He's really good at that.
But there was like a scene where there was a steep cliff that we had to like climb up and drag like a woman by a rope up and everything like that, and we had doubles for that just so that we went and didn't make Eric Roberts climb up a cliff 20 times.
Okay.
I also did some falls for him, and I did some like inserts of gunplay, twirling a gun and stuff like that. But the guy pretty much could do a lot of his own physical stuff. I mean,
good for him.
He's still kicking. So
yeah, he is.
He's a cool guy, and I actually met him on another set like 2 years later.
Did you?
Hometown Hero, a movie that shot up in Pennsylvania. I played one of the Aryan gang thug members.
Okay.
It was very bizarre. I got thrown into a tree. It was awesome.
Terrific. Well, we could go on like this forever.
We could.
But time is up.
Time is of the essence.
And we need you to, again, look in your camera, give people your contact information, people that maybe you want to hire you, or just tell them about you. In fact, I didn't even get into this, but you're here this weekend also for Escape Velocity 2018.
Right.
And what are you doing there? I'll have to get that in real quick.
All right, so let's get that in real quick. I run a company called the DC Stunt Coalition. It's an open source networking and training organization for stunt professionals and aspiring stunt professionals in the DC area. We also allow for action actor training. Part of our outreach is that we go to conventions such as Escape Velocity or Awesome Con, and we teach workshops and we hold a booth and we allow people to come up and ask us questions like you've been asking, and we teach people basics of fight choreography, and we just help people have fun.
Okay.
So I totally implore anybody that has an interest in what we're doing to check out the DC Stunt Coalition. I probably should have brought that up more while we were talking tonight.
It's on your shirt.
It's on my shirt, my favorite shirt. That is the thing that I've tried to pay forward to the DC area, because I did get a lot of experience starting out here. I learned so much. I've been able to build a really cool career out of it, so I try and keep this gym open for everybody else that wants a shot.
Right, I'd never heard of Escape Velocity before, but I did look at the lineup, and it seems like it's combining real science people and science fiction people, like famous science fiction authors, as well as with the PhD scientists. And it doesn't hurt that it's at the MGM Grand.
Well, it's right down the street from it. It's at Gaylord National
I
Harbor
thought it was
Hotel.
there. I thought it was
Parking
there.
over there is good. You can just Uber over.
Okay, it's close.
Yeah, Escape Velocity is wonderful. It is exactly like you said. It's merging arts and science. So teaching fight choreography is really cool because we talk about kind of the science of fighting. So I talk about psi fighting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. How can people contact you and find you?
So yeah, my name's Dylan Hintz. You can reach me. Oh, I got to look into the camera. My name is Dylan Hintz. You can reach me on the internet. My personal email address is dylanhintzmedia@gmail.com, or you can find the DC Stunt Coalition at dcstuntcoalition.org or dcstuntcoalition@gmail.com to get in touch with us immediately. We have our Instagram, Twitter at DCStuntGo, and you can also find us or myself on Facebook.
Terrific. And again, thank you for coming. And we'll have you back to maybe talk about those next 5 years of your career or upcoming projects. Okay.
Yes.
Well, folks, here we are again, and that's the end of another one of our programs, and it was a great one. It was great to have Dylan here, and we'll see you next time on the Paul Stefan Show or one of the other shows that I do. So until then, bye-bye.
You're watching the Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, I'm Steve Darnall, the publisher of Nostalgia Digest, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore. Well done.
The Despothiel is on my shore, Maryland, my Maryland. His torch is at thy temple door, Maryland, my Maryland. Avenge the patriotic gore that fleck the streets of Baltimore, and be the battle queen of yore, Maryland, my Maryland. Thou wilt not cower in the dust, Maryland, my Maryland. Thy beaming sword shall never rust, Maryland, my Maryland. Remember Carroll's sacred trust, remember Howard's warlike thrust, and always onward with the just, Maryland, my Maryland.
This concludes another day of live stream broadcasting from TV Free Baltimore.